Great. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to the full board meeting this morning. It's kind of a special meeting that we put together. Appreciate that. We have quite a few presenters this morning. So we have quite a lot of stuff on the agenda this morning that we're going to go through. Mr. Cook does have another obligation this morning that he needs to attend to, so if you see him leave at 10:30, if we're still here, because he has another part that he has to attend to. We want to welcome everybody that's here in the boardroom, everybody's on virtual today, and if you haven't voted yet, make sure you get on the vote at this meeting. And we'll start with, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll have prayer by Commissioner Cook, pledge allegiance by Commissioner Lutz, and we'll have roll call by Deputy Clerk Robinson.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for Election Day, Lord. Just pray that it will be done, and we know that you're on the throne, Lord. Thank you for the business we have in front of us today. Just pray that we might make the right decisions for the people of Tuscola County. Your precious and holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Barba?
Here.
Commissioner Bond?
Here.
Commissioner Lutz?
Here.
Commissioner Cook?
Here.
You have a quorum, you may proceed.
Thank you, ma'am. Adoption of the agenda this morning. Any additions or anything to add to it?
To Chair, I move to adopt the agenda as presented in today's meeting.
I'll put that of other business myself.
Oh, okay.
Support that.
The move by Commissioner, I'm supported by Commissioner Lutz to adopt the, any more discussion? Here none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda has been adopted. Brief public comment period. Anybody wants to address the board this morning on anything that you see on the agenda or, yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm hoping my item is not on the agenda, but I would like to give you some voting result updates through early voting, and I don't know that I will be able to still be here at the end. So I'm just asking permission to give you a little voting update as it's a most important update today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you for that, and I apologize, I didn't put it on the agenda, but we're very excited, and you've heard me talk about this for 12 months now regarding early voting and how I felt that our turnout has been relatively successful, even though it was small. And in concluding our 9 days of early voting, I feel that we were even more successful than anybody could have ever planned, not just in Tuscola County, but throughout the state. Throughout the state, you're looking at between early voting and absentee voting, over 3 million people have already cast their vote. And so that is an exciting time. We are looking forward to some high turnouts this afternoon, but I wanted to narrow that down because 3 million is a lot, but where does Tuscola County fit in that piece of the puzzle? And I think that's what's important today, and I appreciate you letting me bring that news to you. So for early voting at the end of the 9 days, Tuscola County had 7,721 voters come out to vote during that 9-day period. The first day was our second busiest, was with 1,143. And then it tapered off to under 1,000 the next 7 days. And then on the Sunday, November 3rd, we ended up with 1,274 voters just in that day. So very excited about that. Our absentees, we have had, as of 7 o'clock this morning, we have 8,398 ballots returned, which brings our total of voters that have already cast their vote to 16,119. So currently right now, based on our total registered voters, we're at over 36% voter turnout currently. And that's strong. It is strong and it's exciting. So I think that you can understand my excitement to give that to you today. So as we sit today, we are a higher voter turnout than we were in either the February 24 or the August 24 election. So we have already exceeded our voter turnout than those two elections. Our highest voter turnout in the last 3 November elections was November of 2020 with a 69.26. So I am confident that we'll be over top of that. So any questions for me? But it is an exciting day. I apologize. I probably will not be staying for the entire meeting, but there's other matters to touch to.
Now, none of the votes are counted till, from a district to all that district is reported, right? So how, my question is, like, when you're watching on TV and they're giving you updates every half hour, you know, Michigan's got 50,000 votes for her or 55, how are they doing that if nobody's telling?
Well, we will not release results. Like, you would not know how many votes each of you received until after 8 p.m. A lot of times what they'll have is exit pollsters at some of the key jurisdictions. We actually have an exit pollster that will be at one of our jurisdictions today. And they're asking people as they leave the polls to get a feel for where they think that those votes are gonna come in at. But the actual results will not be released until after 8 p.m.
Are all the counties in Michigan the same way?
Yes, that is correct. Yep, even with the early voting, no results were able to be released until after 8 p.m. because you would never want to sway a voter thinking, oh, my candidate's already up, I'm not gonna go, or my candidate's losing. Me and my 10 friends need to get out. We want everybody to get out, so. Any other questions?
And how many registered voters do we have in Michigan, do you know?
43,964.
In Michigan.
Oh, in Michigan, I know Tuscola County. I know my case is over 6 million-ish. I don't know. That's not my bailiwick. Sorry. Didn't come prepared for that question. I tried to think of everything that you were gonna throw at us and you still got me.
Hey, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We even put meetings that day, you know, wow.
Yeah, no, we gotta talk about this at a later date.
That's what,
That
but
was,
that's what we do.
I kind of feel like you didn't want me here. Okay, well, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, you have a good day too. Public comment, anybody else want to address the board for anything that's on the agenda?
Hi, good morning. I work for the school district, so like after our piece and after we listen to you guys, thank you for your time. I have to get back to the school. I'm a physical therapy assistant in the school system, so I've got students waiting for me. I didn't see it on the list. I don't know if you have to scroll down some, but there's a church building here in town that is supposed to be torn down. It's on Burnside Street. We have a different idea for that. Was hoping that you guys might think about it. We want to do a community center for the arts for youth, maybe like 3rd grade and up. Being in the school system, I work with a lot of kids. I get to see what they're involved in school. There's a lot of issues with behavior since COVID, all these things going on. And there's a lack of encouragement. I see a big gap between parents and kids. Not that parents aren't trying, but sometimes both parents have to be at work, things like that. Want this place to be a place to foster up creativity for kids, but also a safe place after school hours for parents who can't come get their children right away. We have 4 kids, and all of them are very excited about this idea. So
we were directed to come here by Jason and told us to just present our idea because we know that there are plans for it to be torn down. And so we don't know our next steps, but.
Usually, like, folks are welcome to speak usually, but at the beginning it's for the agenda items only. At the end, we do have a public comment, but real quick, I would give it to Tuscola County Land Bank, since they are another one of that bill. And they would be the ones that you would converse with in your ideas. And our treasurer is the chairman of that board. So they would be the ones that you would present your ideas to.
So Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure.
You walk through that church?
only on pictures right now. I do have a couple of contractors, they're willing to come check it out. They've already said, and they're close friends. They're like, we understand there's a lot of work to be done there. And they're willing to donate time and materials and know, there's a lot going on in there, and I heard mold. And then needs a new roof, and then there's water damage. I don't know about the soundness of the structure as far as like footings and things like that, so, but we just, I don't know if we could just buy a little bit of time to do that, go and check it out and things like that, so.
I was just thinking about the asbestos and the lead paint.
Yeah.
Some money.
But
And they could probably tell you a lot of the questions right there, but they have studied it and looked at different things, you know, so they could probably answer some of the questions right there.
Okay, thank you. We were directed to come here, and we knew we might not be in the right place, but you guys are leading us, so thank you.
You're kind of in the right place, but
Okay,
the Cisco County Land Bank would be.
all right,
thank you very
thank
much.
Get with.
Thank you.
Go keep them kids straight.
Any more public comment on the agenda items only, please? Here, seeing none, it's already showed the public comment was offered, and we did have a couple of people for public comment. And with that, we'll move on to new business. And number one on the new business is the 2025 budget discussion with the courts. And I see Sheila Long is here to present that.
Judge Garrett should be coming. We were scheduled at 8:15, so if you want to skip us and come back around.
We can do that, yes. Let's move on down to number two then, and we'll have the 2025 budget discussion at 8:30. Mosquito abatement, Larry, is up.
Good morning. Morning, Larry.
Morning, Larry.
Commissioners, I'm here this morning to just give you a brief explanation for requested funding regarding my 2025 mosquito abatement budget. In particular, line item number 240-100-984, under the name GIS. I'm requesting the board consider budgeting $37,763 for the future purchase of ULV truck logging software from a company called Frontier Precision. Commissioners, as you may or you may not know, the truck logging portion of our program is still done with paper maps. To my knowledge, this is how we've always operated. The ULV truck logging software would replace that current mapping system for our technicians to run the routes. The software would actually provide a tablet for each mosquito truck with detailed on-screen directions for them to follow during their nighttime fogging. It also provides alerts when they're approaching no spray areas. It also it actually works as a guide as they're running through their routes, much like you would use your cell phone.
What fund was that again, Larry? What fund did you refer to?
It's 240-100-984. It's under GIS. It should be right towards the end. This software, it also records all the information during the truck logging spray session. It can record the time that the logging session started as well as it ended. It records when the truck was spraying, when it was not spraying. It records wind direction. It records truck speed. So there's just a lot of wealth of information that we could have access to now that we don't currently have. Why is this important? Again, this would help us record and keep on record for our files. Every spray session the truck operates in every township for the entire season. We'll record that information. This is important also. As you may or may not know, we are required to follow the laws of the Michigan Department of Agriculture. This information that we could record would be very helpful
if they had any questions for us in the future. And please don't get me wrong, this isn't a requirement through NDART. I do see that possibly being a requirement in the future, just because it provides so much detailed information. So what are the main benefits of this software? In my opinion, there are three. Number one, this is a much safer way for our technicians to operate and do their jobs during the dark of night versus pulling over constantly, looking at a paper map, trying to figure out which no spray areas we're about to approach, trying to figure out when they should turn on and off. I've sprayed truck fogged several times myself since I've been at mosquito abatement, and it's a lot harder than what it looks. It is, especially at night, using a paper map. The second benefit to this software would provide us a better service to our residents. And as I said, we spend a lot of time on these maps, reading them, trying to figure out which direction we're supposed to be at in the middle of the night. This software would eliminate a lot of downtime for us. It would help us be more efficient as well as versatile. There's a lot of times during our mosquito season where we have heavy activities in certain areas. In certain areas, we just don't. Versatility would be key here with this software. For instance, we have a technician assigned to the Columbia Township as well as Elton Township. And there are times we're just not experiencing a lot of activity up in that area in the northern parts of our county. We're down in Millington Township, Wheeler Township, we're experiencing a lot of mosquito activity. It's very difficult to move that technician from that northern area, hand him or her a map and say, hey, go help this technician out in Millington or Wheeler Township, because they're simply not familiar with it. This software would help solve that problem, because we can program every single township map into each truck tablet. So no matter where the technician is familiar with, they can simply program that map, a certain map, into their tablet, and we can put them anywhere where they're needed. And they won't spend a lot of downtime trying to figure out where they should and shouldn't go if they're not familiar with that area. The third and final reason software, again, is recording records. We would have a solid way of recording each truck fogging routine as we go through the season. Out of the 4 mosquito districts in the state, we are the last ones to adopt this technology. I know that sounds like a bad thing, but I look at it as a good thing. I've had the opportunity to meet with Saginaw County and Bay County and actually view this software. This is actually the same software that they're currently using. Bay County was even kind enough to let me do a ride along with one of their technicians, so I can actually experience it working out there in the field. And I definitely see the benefits of it. I did pass all this information on to Cody Portman, our GIS director, as well as Ian. I wanted them to take a look at the software as well. They both gave me a thumbs up as far as offering to help in any way they could if this were something that was approved in the future. So that was very important to me to have both of them involved and help us out if this is something that we decide to go forward with. Other than that, be happy to try and answer any questions you have for me.
Chair, I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How many tablets are we talking about?
So when I spoke with Frontier Precision, they really recommended that this be done in a 2-phase process. According to Frontier, and Saginaw and Bay County recommended this as well. So for the first season, 2025 coming up, we would have the office software installed, and we would have 6 truck tablets installed at that time. This allows my staff, as well as my technicians, to get trained with the program slowly, get used to their tablets. I could rotate different technicians out in different trucks so they could slowly learn that process. The second phase, which would happen in 2026, we would purchase 8 more tablets for the remainder of the night volume trucks. So we'd be looking at a total of 14 tablets after the project is all said and done.
This isn't a question, just on, I can't believe we haven't done this before this.
I'm with you. I'll be honest, I'm not a super technical guy. But
We don't have to, we have super technical guys.
we do, thank goodness. I know this is something that Director Green had, previous director, wanted to do in the past, and at that time when she was here, this type of software where it was just kind of getting started at that time. She felt it would be best to give it some time to let the other districts kind of experiment with it, work the bugs out, and I really think that was the right thing to do. Once I seen the software work myself, as I said, I was very impressed with it, how easy it was to use, how much information we could get out of it.
So if I came into your office right now, want information, that little file, give you paper?
Yes, it's all on paper.
Mr. Chairman, so the 37,000, is that for the tablets and the software?
Yeah, so that first quote is just for that first season. That would include the office software and the 6 tablets. It also includes technical support and training from Frontier Precision. The second phase, which would happen in 2026, where we would purchase the remaining tablets, we would need to get a quote on them just for those particular tablets we would need.
And my favorite question I'd like to ask, do you have money in your budget for this?
We do. Well, if it's approved. If it's approved, yes. We are excited, and I really think this will be most beneficial to our residents as well as our technicians.
So the 25 to 60 you'll get, will that cover what you need for 25?
Yes, that amount I'm asking for, to budget for the subcounty budget, that'll cover all that first phase.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, if you turn to page 4 of your proposed first review budget book, and you can review the 240 voted as fuel fund there, and as you can see, this amount is worked into the Department requested first draft amount, and the bottom line is he's still going to grow his fund balance, an estimated growth of fund balance by $94,000.
Any more questions for Cody? Not Cody, but Larry? Andy? Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Gary, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll move back up to the, are you ready, Sheila, move back up? Budget discussion with clerk.
Morning, Board of Commissioners.
Morning.
Just real quick, on behalf of the courts, just a few things we'd like to suggest. I did talk to our email Clayette the last couple of days regarding our law clerk position. I believe back in 2022, the board approved $28,000 for a part-time law clerk position. Since then, we kind of combined our deputy FOC position and our law clerk position as one. I believe in 2025, we plan to go back to the 2 separate positions, so we just asked the board to reinstate that $28,000 dollars back in our budget for the law clerk position that was approved in 2022. I believe Clayette said they hadn't budgeted for that, for 2025 or, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then just some other things on behalf of on behalf of the courts, we do ask that the court consider the cost of living increase for 2025 and keep in mind that our employees are now going to a high-deductible health insurance plan for the most part, or the majority of them, I anticipate will be going to that high-deductible health insurance plan in the next, 7 weeks. So we just want you to keep in mind when you do the cost of living increases for 2025, keep in mind that that's going to be more money out of pocket for our employees, and it's becoming harder and harder to retain employees. As you know, we've already, for new hires, have done away with pensions, and now our health insurance is changing. So just keep that in mind as you make your decisions for the 2025 budget. And just some other things that we've thought about or would suggest, a couple of things that would be basically no cost to the county or to the board or funding unit that may be a benefit to employees, such as perhaps like a third personal day. Right now, employees are provided 2 personal days for court employees anyway, non-union. Or perhaps providing employees with like their birthday off with pay. Just a couple of things to show our employees that even though the purse strings may be getting tighter, that there are some things that we can consider to try to benefit them in some way. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Sheila? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move on to number 3. Discussion of a truck purchase. Van Commissioner Hood.
Morning, board.
Good morning.
So, in the packet, I'm proposing for the budget for next year is to possibly get a new vehicle for the drain office. We currently do have a 2013 pickup truck. My request is presented in the aspect of some safety features that the truck doesn't currently have that I feel is an essential aspect of part of the job responsibilities. The current truck does not have a backup camera or any type of system for us to hook up any type of like a flashing light. We're always on the site, we're always on projects, we're in fields, we're on the side of the road. I want to be safe. I want to make sure that I have the features that I need to be able to function, to meet with the contractors, be on site, to be safe. My proposal that is in the packet right now does take into account trading in the current vehicle. The current vehicle, an estimated value they gave on the vehicle was $15,000. That's at the current right now, depending on when the transaction would take effect, and if they appraised at that point in time. So the request for the budget is approximately $40,000. Questions?
I have one. Is there any mechanical problems with the old truck right now?
No. The safety feature with the whole backup camera, things of that nature, I have found over the years that when we're in the middle of the field and you're trying to turn around and there's trees and you can't see and you're in a big ditch and even on the side of the road and you're trying to turn around, it's very hard. And then plus, I would like to, in here, this does account for some type of a light bar for people who are on the side of the road for cautions besides just the flashers. As you know, everything is dangerous anymore. Any more questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Clayette, is that in this budget in here?
So again, if you look at page 4 in your budget book, for the 244 equipment tech funds, this is where the request is sitting under the estimated expenditures. So it has been worked into the total cost in the 244 fund under the request that we have so far of $217,000. What you do see is we don't have what we're going to do for revenue yet. So the revenue and the transfers out of the general fund to cover the request in this fund have to be decided on. So it shows, these are your requests, which, is quite low considering the requests we had in the past. But still, it's $217,000 altogether that we're going to have to make a decision on to transfer out to from the general fund to cover for these projects. And that is included in that project,
This 30, whatever.
the $40,000.
Approximately 40. Thank you.
Sure.
This is good. I just want to let you know the last few years, I've opted to use my own pickup for these reasons, for the safety features. I mean, there's areas we get into and we just built the other vehicle and it's just not safe. So I've opted to use my personal vehicle. So, you won't have that mileage on there anymore as an expense that I've been using because I had, especially, just a good example is Murphy Lake. They requested us not to put parking spots at Murphy Lake to turn around for us. So luckily the neighbors there said you could turn around their yard, but there's posts there and trees and you need the camera to even turn around there. We go to Murphy Lake at least once a month. So, those are another reason I think it needs to be upgraded. And I've always carried a portable flasher in my personal vehicle too, just if I got caught somewhere in the middle of the night. And one was a mortar rain, I had to go in the middle of the night and put the flasher out. When I was in town with the city there too, when things were flooding. So, I think having a flasher and a safety vehicle upgrade is a positive thing for the Green Office.
Is the new truck four-wheel drive?
Yes, yeah, we definitely need four-wheel drive. There's no question. When we're trying to track down a contractor on a site and drive into their equipment, there's no question we need four-wheel drive.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you want to?
There is a motion that was written for this, as board wanted to go ahead with the motion, or you would need more discussion with our, wait for we to get more numbers in, or we didn't do it?
I think we should wait, see how much money we have.
Hasn't been decided what to be transferred in yet, so I'm sure you have some thoughts on that later.
Yeah, I mean, as it stands right now, with the requests that me and Debbie know about at this time, it's 217,000, we had about 11,400 for carryover. So just to make it budget neutral, you need at least $205,580, which isn't a whole lot considering the past. But of course, when we look at general fund later, more than likely, you're looking at using that fund balance that we have set aside for projects like this, if you consider to move forward with that.
So your recommendation, Ted, maybe just to hold off on the waiver until we get more numbers and get a plan where it's gonna come from?
It's up to the board. If you make this decision, then also keep in mind that decision has to get made to use those fund balances that we have in the general fund transfer. We're gonna have to use fund balance in the general fund to transfer the stuff over anyways. And right now, I know we're working on the tracker and stuff, but I think we're hovering around 2.6 million for capital equipment needs, and potentially any other budget shortfalls that we may have.
So if it's something that the board thinks that we're gonna do down the road anyway, I mean, since they've got the quote and everything right now where it's at, you might as well, my opinion, because that could change, a month from now, 2 months from now.
And keep in mind, this is for the 25 budget, so it's not like they could pull the trigger and buy the truck now, unless the board is prepared to allow that.
Okay, so that, so it doesn't matter that if we hold off a little bit.
I mean, if it's something that you believe in, by all means, you can pass the motion. We do have it worked in these numbers, but decisions that you make determine if we take it away from these numbers or leave it in the numbers and work closer towards getting a realistic number of a transfer in the general fund balance over here. to accommodate the projects that you think that are necessary to move forward on.
We're projecting, when you said 2.6 billion, 25.
So that's about what we got in reserves. Yeah. General fund's falling short, a little under a couple 100,000 right now. Just purely revenue versus expenditures without these work in.
When you say reserves, is that the restricted or unrestricted, or is that the GSP funds?
The PGS is considered general fund, unreserved fund balance. But we do break it down in this book so you can see where we're, again, if you look on page 4 on the top, this is where we're projecting where we're going to land at the end of 24 and what we have available for 25. And so you have your unassigned fund balance, which normally in the past, our unassigned has been around 500,000. So we're in a pretty good position by starting 24 off, potentially, depending on, the year is still young here. We're just into November, who knows what's gonna happen, but we are projecting maybe about 782,000 in your regular unreserved that you can use for your general fund operations as well. And then on top of that, that 2.6 in your assigned PGS, in audit is referred to as unassigned. So in audit, they merged them all together. But for technical purposes, and I believe it's the the intent of the commissioners, you kind of want to keep that as well as the tracker and everything else, to make sure we spend that money wisely and exactly how we spend it, and nothing gets spent without board motion.
Mr. Chairman, so the PGS or the PS, the bank building over here, are we on target for that, for what we were scheduled for?
Yeah, project is underway. Other than something under other business we talk about,
Right.
furniture and stuff, then that we will be fine. That money's already been put over there and we're spending that money down. Doesn't have anything to do with this money here.
Okay.
This current, so we transferred all that money, back in 24 for that project. So that money's already been set aside for that.
I still think we should wait to see how much money at the bottom line we have before we go making motions, that's my opinion.
Another question, Clint, so 217, if you use that, would you take it from the unassigned to 633, is that where it would come from?
No, I would recommend that we use the PGS fund balance portion of 2.6 million. So out of that 2.6, I would recommend we also, as we've done in the past, fund any projects in the equipment tech 2.4 fund or the 483 to capital fund. That's been the pattern, and I would recommend that we continue to do that. This other unassigned, you're probably going to need, you will need for just general operations, as well as your transfer outs to what we'll talk about later. When you look at page 4 and you see the spread, these funds have issues and they need to get fixed. It's either going to be reducing the budgets or increasing money from the general fund to save these funds so that we continue to operate.
So, Commissioner Barrow, Finance Chair, your recommendation on this?
Well, I concur with Commissioner Woods in the sense that we can hear the rest of the requests. I'm just curious, what other requests are there against the PGS funds other than this truck? I mean, is there?
Well, we
there's
have-
one somewhere.
We have the normal requests, and I think they're in detail when we go through the book. On page, when we get there, it starts on page 33 and page 34. Those are the list of requests that are coming.
So that'll be all part of your presentation today,
Yes,
is that?
that will go through. If anybody, right now it's the opportunity for that department head to present and let you know the importance of their requests that they have and the reason why they feel that it's something that they have to have.
I'd suggest we wait till the end for the report.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? I don't see anybody from the prosecutors. Is there anybody from the prosecutor's office? So let's move on to 911. Can we move, let's move, the two mayors up to move forward now. Or wait, we're running a little late, schedule, it's still good.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
I do have a packet for you in addition. It's just a capital improvement plan for 911 over the next 5 years. I do want to remind you that it is fluid. It can change almost month by month. These are just some of the plans that we have over the next 5 years to improve our dispatch center to serve the citizens of Tuscola County. In it, just briefly, we explain who our authority board is, who those members are, that helps develop the capital improvement plan. What exactly is the plan? On page 4, you'll see the layout over the next 4 years, what we project. For expenditures, again, it's fluid, it moves, changes. This year we learned that one of the things that I've been discussing with you about information security over the radio systems. At the state conference this year, they did announce that October 1st of 2026, encryption is mandatory. For those centers that are not encryption capable, they're starting to enlist sanctions. The state has not said what those sanctions will be, other than it may limit the information dispatch is allowed to receive, and certainly we cannot transmit. So things like warrant requests, right? If you're stopped on a traffic stop and an officer radios in on our main channel and asks if there's any outstanding lawful warrants for you, come October 1 of 2026, we will not be able to transmit that information over the radio unless it is encrypted. Dispatch has seen this coming. Our radios were upgraded, so we are capable of encryption and transmitting that. But this is a crucial time because everyone else is also going through their budget requests. And so that means every law enforcement agency will have to also budget for encryption. So we're keeping an eye on that. So we've labeled that digital security because, believe it or not, and I brought up this point before, your criminal matters are protected. However, your health issues are not. So if we're called to your home for a medical issue, that does not need to be encrypted, just criminal things in nature. In our capital outlay plan, we have no room for emergency fire pagers. Those are currently 5 years old. So at some point, we're gonna have to have a discussion over that and what we want to do with the fire departments, as well as emergency radios. This year I am looking to, in 2025, with the assistance of Ian, improving our security suite measures out at dispatch, revamping our cameras, but as well as getting on the county system so that when things happen in county buildings, we can have eyes on and get that information to first responders. We also have some IT requests in there as well as some furniture. And just it goes on to explain each one of these projects. As far as requests for 2025, our revenue is again pretty much staying the same. We're projecting a little over $1 million, $1,060,000. We're hoping to get funding from the state of Michigan again for our training. We're anticipating that to be $13,000 in 2024. We did not have that revenue in, so we're looking to sustain that again, get that back. Again, we do not have any contracts that I have on file with either of our tower rent companies, which would be Lou Sharp, formerly Anderson Radio,
and as well as formerly Air Advantage is now Hub Electric. So we're looking to, that needs to stay the same, but I would encourage us to look at revamping the contracts. The last thing that I've seen in minutes or motions was in 2014, that said we would renew the contracts every 5 years. And I have not found anything since where we renew the contract or look at what we're receiving as far as payment from them, so I would hope that we can renew that. Our state and wireless surcharge from the state of Michigan is again, it's staying the same or stagnant. We have been successful in reducing our budget. In the last 3 years, we've reduced our annual budget nearly $42,000. So we're looking forward to that. Moving into 2025, I do have some open positions. I'm hosting interviews on Thursday to fill 2 open dispatcher positions. And I would like that you consider to keep my supervisor position staffed. I would look to immediately or expediently fill that. The reason it has not been filled has simply been timing. Over the last year, I've been concentrating on my deputy director, explaining my roles, responsibilities, and her duties, as well as some of mine should I be absent, which she's taking care of some this morning. So honestly, I just didn't have time to fill that position with the supervisor and go through that training process. I have been told that I do not have the budget to sustain the legacy costs of that supervisor position. But I do have a fund balance. I think I've been pretty transparent with the budget woes of 911. So I would look to, again, fill that position and to continue funding that. And kind of to reiterate what was spoken earlier from the courts is if we eliminate this supervisor position, I have to think about my staff. The health insurance is obviously been on everyone's mind. Completely transparent, I have employees that are wondering if they should continue to work for the county because of their medical needs for either themselves or their loved ones in their family. They are simply writing off an entire paycheck to cover their health insurance. County employment is no longer what it used to be and something to be prideful of. So not only are the healthcare costs driving my people out, but this chance of no advancement. If I lose the supervisor position, they are essentially in a dead-end job. And I understand that because I remember feeling that way at the sheriff's office. The third thing is low pay. It's no secret that my dispatchers took the lowest pay increase during contract negotiations because of our budget. And so when they take the lowest pay increase and the highest healthcare costs, it's not effective for their families any longer. Lastly is the high stress. Dispatch truly has been looked down upon in the first responder world for a long time. I use my outspoken voice to share their successes and their problems that they face out on the hill. And it's the high stress of the job that has cost me. Some of my dispatchers, they just simply couldn't handle the job any longer. On top of everything else that I just explained. So it's always been my dream to train them up, to give them the experience that they need, that they can go anywhere else, but that they choose not to. But unfortunately, I think we're at the crossroads of I'm training them up so that they can leave for something more prosperous for themselves or for their family, whether it be job satisfaction and advancement, better health care, or higher pay. So those are the things that I'm weighing out at dispatch. And I felt it was time to share those. Do you have any questions or concerns for me, John?
Any questions for Mr. Ramirez?
I'm looking at page 4, and it shows a decline of 129 from the beginning, and then 229 estimated beginning fund balance for 9/11. And then the estimated ending fund balance is a drop, which, when you're speaking of projection of legacy costs, is that what you're basing it on in terms of moving forward to 26, 27, that fund balance is continuing to drop?
Yeah, unfortunately, the dispatch fund has been at a budget burn for this is gonna be the third year in a row that the numbers I have in front of me. In 23, there was 162,000 decrease in funding. In 24, the fund balance took a hit. We're expecting by year end of about $421,000. And then the way the budget is set right now, and this budget is set without that extra position in it. It's a budget burn of, or fund balance burn of about $129,000. So the pattern is it's a slow, steady hitting at his funds that he has available. And we all knew, we had talked about that in the past, and it's really happening. And 24 is a big hit. I'm trying to figure out what happened, where we anticipate that hit to be so bad. Worst case scenario right now, it's at a $381,000 deficit on revenue versus expenditures. So we're using the money in 23 that we carried over, unless his revenues, obviously. He's got a lot of phone surcharge money that doesn't come in until January and February, and we accrue that back too. So fingers crossed that that number doesn't get higher than about where it's at right now. But looking forward, adding a position, that burn rate's gonna be quicker. So we gotta have a plan, I think, for that operations to sustain that, because if not, I believe early on in my 10 years, I think at 26, maybe even, I think by the end of 26 into 27, they have the money to operate the way they're operating today.
So I took a dive into this as well, to figure out, because I do believe that our revenue year to date is lower than it was last year at this time. And last year in 2023, we had one phone company that went out of business. And so far in 2024, we've had 14. So whether, I would love to say that the other companies are buying these companies up and those lines are being reallocated, but I can't confidently say that. What I can confidently say, and conveniently enough, there was just an article written from the Lapeer director, is that dispatch has grown exponentially in the last 5 years as far as the advancement from the clerical designation to truly a key member of first responders agencies. And the services that are provided by a 911 dispatch center have far outgrown the days when we were in the basement of the sheriff's office and we were simply taking warrants and entering them in for the sheriff's deputies. So now we're doing that, like I said, for the courts. And you know, I'm looking at what public expectation is versus what can I truly afford to live up to that expectation. One example that I have for you is rave alerts. Another example, I guess, would be Smart 911. I quickly got rid of Smart 911 because it was very expensive. When it first came out, the state gave me money for it. That dried up within a year. Everybody kind of dumped it off. And we were one of them. Another area is the rave alerts. We use that just again, to keep the public informed. That's about $15,000 a year. So earlier this year, well, and really at the beginning of 24, I set out to find competitors. So all year long, I've been looking at competitors. I've included our IT. And I have four competitors, and I can cut that cost down basically in half to just under $8,000. So as dispatch director, like I said, I'm stuck with looking at my budget. It is what it is. and what the expectations are of not only the fire agency, the ambulance agencies, and the police agencies, but also the general public. The decisions that we make out on the Hill affects 53,000 of us. So I'm very cognizant of that, and I'm just, you know, as far as business, the way we've been doing it, God knows that's a term I hate. It's just what we've always done. I think there's always time for evaluation to see if there's better ways we can do it. However, in the instance of having, when I'm fully staffed, I have 10 dispatchers, which truly is minimal staffing around the clock. So even when, I mean, just kind of take that into context, even when we're fully staffed, we're minimally staffed. That's 2. And there are countless times where I'm sitting in my office and I hear the phones just ringing off the hook. And my dispatchers are stuck deciding to triage which emergency, which if you're calling 911, it's probably your worst day of your life. Whether you hit a deer or you just found your loved one deceased in bed in the morning and they, passed away through the night, they have to decide and triage which emergencies are more emergent to put them on hold. And I know I've discussed that before as well. Our average time for answering phone calls, they fall within industry standards, but only because we answer it, we put them on hold. The average hold time for Tuscola County is 15 seconds. When we're dealing with cardiac arrests, 15 seconds can literally mean life or death. So I do consider that with all my choices when I come before you. I can leave this article here for you about staying ahead in dispatch and really what the public expects from 911. And but lastly, I want to read, if I can find it, I apologize. I have notes because I came, like Joe Clerk then said it, I try and come prepared for anything. But here's a letter from my union president representing my dispatchers. They want to know what's going on with the supervisor position and when it's going to be filled, because the overwhelming response from them to the president is that some sort of change is needed. What's currently being done is not working and not effective. Dispatchers feel that they're being overtasked and that a supervisor position would help them. It was also noted several times by dispatchers that there should be ability to grow in their employment and a supervisor's position, fix that need, having something for them to work towards. So again, that's coming from the union and their union president, and what the supervisor positions mean to them in their, I guess, workplace satisfaction. So I leave it to you, the board. I'm certainly open to discussion or to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chair, a question. Your call rate, 24 versus 23, are you up, even, down?
We're up. 23, I believe I reported it as a little over 57,000. And I believe at this point we're succeeding that or surpassing that.
Mr. Chairman, so would you promote within?
Yes, I would. I believe, and this would be an HR question, I believe I have to post it regardless, but I would obviously hope to promote from within.
Chairman, I just, on the board, this is an old discussion, but at current state, this is heading for funding deficit as indicated by Kalina. Was it 27? All things being equal.
Yeah, if something doesn't change.
Yeah, if something doesn't change. And there are only 3 ways that I can remember that we discussed. The most current one was adding a millage to fund it, and that was opted out. The discussion was to bring the surcharge up to the max, which I don't remember the exact number, but we're almost there. It wasn't sufficient to make much of a difference, but that could still be done.
Yes.
And of course, the third option is that the county adds it to its transfers out, so to speak, and funds go out. At some point, the board has to make a decision which of these options you want to take, one or two. Maybe the surcharge first and then something else, because obviously, we've done it as much as we can, I think, for the sheriff's department in terms of paying for the education, paying for those in the education program. We're gonna be hard pressed at some point that we're not gonna be able to respond at the key point, and that's where all the calls come in. Obviously, that's where they get dispatched. So I just want to bring that to light. I don't have a solution for it, but obviously from the financial aspect, it's going to be in a deficit in the next 4 years, all things being equal. And I don't believe that with the inflation rate and the cost structure of the economy right now, that cost cutting is going to amount to the dollars that you need to move forward, let alone keep up with technology. Now, you did mention in your write-up the grants you're pursuing. Is there anything you'd like to share with the board related to the grants for some of the equipment to offset these costs?
We had already applied for 2 grants. I should say 1 grant and 1 appropriation of funds from the state. Both were denied. We're going to continue in 25 to try and reapply for the appropriation of some money. It's a lot of work. The grants that we hope to look forward to will be obviously from MIRMA, moving on in the future.
And Clint, if this supervisor position was included in this number, that would back up the funding deficit that you're projecting for 27. Would it be like, would that happen in 26? Or have you thought about it? Or?
I guess I don't know the cost of the supervisor. It seemed like when a deputy dispatch director was created, some of those funds were diverted for that position. So as a restructure, just going by what I remember. Yeah, if you add any more costs onto this, whatever that cost is, and I don't have that in front of me. I don't know if John has the cost of that position with wages and fringes. It's got to be 75,000-ish.
We have 83,152.
So that cost would go on to your expenses, expected expenses. So therefore, what that's doing, if you look at the dispatch fund, you can just subtract that off on available funds we're going into from 25 to 26. So yeah, adding that kind of money to that will just even expedite the burn a little bit faster. So those are those decisions, those tough decisions have to be made on, grants. Where can we find more money? What, because if you can't reduce the expenditures, you're increasing them. When you got kinds of revenues.
And just adding, and that's very important to understand because that would accelerate the deficit, or if it's going to be zero balance. But I think I've done this correctly. You've got about a 23% drop in the fund balance projected from the beginning to the end. So you just multiply that out next few years, you drop it 20-25%. That's even accelerating the decline of that fund balance. It's a very difficult situation.
So if we did get the rate increase with that, what would that do for his budget?
Well, if you can't get the perfect world is your revenues equal your expenditures, obviously, to sustain operations.
Right.
So to get the revenue up to where it's a little bit more, because in the past, previous directors would try to make bank, so to speak, and build a fund balance to make equipment purchases every 3 years or so. And we just haven't been able to do that just to sustain operations. And the equipment, PGS fund, they give some money, try to get these MIRMA grants where they can, but I don't see an end in sight as far as the revenue and expenditures equal each other, so you can just kind of get a slow, sustain operations and make sure that everybody's happy out there and the employees have what they need.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Definitely something that's got, it's got to be addressed sooner or later.
right, it just says something that's when we come back to the board here, probably the letter part next year, where we're going to sit down and really figure out going forward, how to get this sustainable. If it would be, I don't know, into others, look at that, look at, raising the, if he, just this board, yeah, we're gonna have to take this a little serious and sit down and look at different alternatives for sure.
What is the surcharge we're doing now, and what's the next we can charge?
The current surcharge is $203, and the max we can receive is $3.
Sure, last time I talked, I think you said it was probably about $120,000 a year.
I believe that's accurate.
Something like that. But again, and that's all part of our discussion, we said, down and look at those people, look at. that.
I guess that's what I was saying, 120,000 is gonna help, it's not gonna bail out.
Well, yeah, no, definitely.
Did we receive a grant for door swipes or dispatch?
I don't recall. I don't remember either. I know we have submitted for it. I don't know that we-
Because I think Shelley put that together.
That was part of a big package with the sheriff's office, and I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it was submitted. I can't recall.
Okay.
All right, any more questions for Josh this time? Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back up into number 4, prosecutor's office budget discussion.
Marty, Mr. Reed is in circuit court and he has asked that you pass on us until he's finished with circuit court.
Okay, I'm glad you wanted to do that.
Thank you.
Then are we ready to move on, to budget discussion for GIS Treasury Office Code?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I'm here to talk to you today about our Fetch GIS service. It is currently a paid service, which is to say our taxpayers get onto it and they pay $3 to access our reports, assessing tax, delinquent tax, sales history information. What I'm coming before you today is to ask to convert that service from a paid system to a free system. So our taxpayers, our businesses, our departments have greater visibility of that information. They are able to pass that along easier for free. Part of the sort of mission statement for this department has been to self-fund. So when I ask you to convert this to a free system, I understand that this is going to be a revenue loss. Ashley came to me one day, and she's not the only department that faces this issue of people just keeping the phone ringing, asking for information that can be gained through this fetch system. I know it's especially with the larger companies like CoreLogic, they will multiple times a day hold up staff members, and we refer them to this system, but because it's a paid service, we get a little pushback from them. If this becomes a free service, not only does that alleviate a lot of the workload that our staff has to do to kind of guide these people into getting the information they're looking for, but it also provides better service for our taxpayers. I think on average, the year-to-year revenue was $27,000. That's excluding 1 year from COVID, which the revenue from Fetch did not meet the expense of Fetch. Our expense is $8,000 a year. And after talking with Ashley, we would like to ask to make that switch over to a free service while keeping the understanding that this department has to sustain its budget. So in order to replace the lost revenue from making it free, I would like to ask the board to increase our general fund appropriation by $20,000. Also, because this has a direct impact to the foreclosure process, I would like to ask that the expense for paying for fetch, that $8,000, be moved over to an appropriate fund in the foreclosure fund. I don't know if you have any.
Just to elaborate on what Cody's talking about, when we're saying that the phones are tied up, it's not a 5-minute conversation. These companies are taking 20 to 30 minutes of your time, and meanwhile you have customers that are needing help at the counter, and you are walking them through the process of how to get in, and they just, first there's a language barrier, but they don't understand, and they get to the point where they have to pay, and then they say, well, I can't get that information. And because it's a paid service, we've always been trained, we force them to do this, right? Because this money needs to help fund GIS. But we are getting 30 minutes on a phone call multiple times a day. They'll hang up and they'll call right back, hoping the next person's just gonna give them the information. And it's another 30-minute conversation. The reason why I'm coming to you is, and I feel like it's something that needs to be shared. When I took office in 21, the general fund budget was $387,000 for the treasurer's office. I've cut over $167,000 out of the general fund budget by making efficiencies in my office and offsetting money into the foreclosure fund for expenses. This $20,000 request is something that helps not only my office, it helps GIS, it helps equalization, it probably helps register of deeds. I haven't spoken to her on the amount of phone calls she gets that she has to direct to GIS, but in my mind, it's a very minimal request and ask for the amount of money that I've saved the general fund.
Would it be free, actually? Would it stop the phone calls? Why would it stop the phone calls even if it's free?
Because now they don't have to pay to get in. And we can really push it on our site, like you click this button and you're in. You can access that information. You don't have to, currently you can go look at anybody's property. You just can't get the information that title companies are needing, that mortgage companies need, even taxpayers. So taxpayers that, in my mind, when they maybe don't know that they're owing money, and they can get online and see their report every day if they want it. It's updated every night. And then another thing that I've been pushing is we have a lot of local units that still collect, every local unit collects their own winner, except for Indian Fields, we've collected for them for the past few years, which is also a revenue generator that my office has helped with this county. And I've asked those townships, because their information is kept locally, I've asked for them to provide us an update of their database regularly, so that we can get that information. It won't be up to date as the county's summer taxes that we collect for at the daily. The delinquent will be, but the townships would be like every month or so, it would be an update. But that information, I feel like taxpayers deserve to have the most readily available information at their disposal. And by making this free, they can see that information. They'll be able to see their picture of their map, but then they'll get this right here. And then you would have to log in and buy credits, and some companies buy credits in a bundle, right? And I think there's a little bit of a cost savings if they do, I'm not sure. But if you were to go look at your report, if you wanted to see if your taxes were paid because our office was closed or whatever it may be, you would have to pay to see your own information.
And this is because the number of calls I get from banks working with customers, this is a part of the process for everyday business. It's now held up, I got to put in credit card number, I've got to print off this report. It's adding a little barrier there to just normal everyday business for people. And they do complain about it. And I understand that. What, my justification is, the 3 seconds it takes to get that report, worth your time versus contacting each office independent. I think it is. And I think even better would be to make it free, speed this process along, give greater transparency to our taxpayers. Nobody likes to see someone lose their home. Well, now you can see your delinquent taxes anytime you want.
We are 1 in 4 counties.
I believe there are 4 counties who use this service that have it as a pay system. All of the other counties have it as a free system.
Yeah, I have, free to give the taxpayer, no doubt about that.
Right.
So John, I just have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Is it the pay-per-view that's the problem, the entry point?
So yes, because most other entities, and even there are sort of competitor systems where they are pay systems, but you can still access your own information. Ours, unfortunately, I feel offers a better set of features, but we don't have that granularity, either free or pay. When they hit that pay screen, a lot of people just say, I'm not gonna deal with it, or they start calling.
And what we've experienced where like they'll call our office, we don't give them the information, we send them the GIS, then they call him, and then they hang up and they call equalization. They'll just keep calling, and it's not a 2-minute conversation of hearing no and hanging up. It is 20 minutes.
So they're calling you, a lot of these calls, actually, it's time, because they're calling you, trying to get the information that they can't get out here.
And they keep saying the
because-
information isn't on
Because
there.
they run to the point, yeah.
They keep saying the
That
information isn't
explains why
there,
they're calling,
but it is.
and making you go do all the work that they don't want to do because they don't want to pay for it.
And if it takes, the number of people who have to address this call, you can do some math on that. But also on their end, if you're working for a title company or a bank, they're also incurring a cost for their business. To me, I have felt that it needs to be free, but I always run into this, the sort of this to be self-funding. It's difficult to sort of balance those two things.
I think the idea was that we were hoping to maybe shift the board's focus of seeing GIS as a self-funding department, realizing that we could offer the taxpayers more from Tuscola County if we don't focus on GIS being a self-funding department. Obviously, you're gonna still try and track and keep within budget, but that there would need to be a little bit more of an appropriation.
And this is probably, depending on the year, the top or the second from the top source of revenue. So if this does convert to a free system, we would be relying quite a bit on those general fund transfers. We do data sales, but that would not pick up the gap of making this free on its own.
So if we made this free, would they have to call your office?
They would not. I expect there will be a period where people still do. But what we will do going forward, and I'm sure Ashley, I'm sure all the departments where you can point them to the website and say, there are no barriers at this point. There's no technical hassle. If you can click that button, if you can Google your address on there, you can use this system effectively.
And there's different ways to search a property. You can search by the parcel number and the address, the last name. It's not like you have to have all of that information in order to get in. You type in one of the options, parcel number, address, and then the list, if it's a last name, say, there's a list of everybody with that same last name, you just find the one you're looking for and click it, and then the information will come up for you.
And I do have an email out to see what this conversion process would look like from their end. I haven't got a response yet, but if the board is favorable, once I get that information, I can bring it back before you.
So I'm sorry, Coach, you said it'd be 20,000 or 27,000?
So 20,000, because we're also going to move the expense for the system. It'd be 20,000. I expect that there may, because we have a subscription program, not to dig even deeper with our townships and villages. Once this goes free, I expect a certain number of them may opt to not subscribe, because that's a major benefit, is that they get that fetch for free. So the extra there is to kind of make up for a little bit of that going away. So 20,000 would be my ask.
We have the register of deeds, but as I said, I didn't get the chance to speak to her, so.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, and I just wanted to say that that would be a great option
for taxpayers to have it for free. It would be very beneficial. The GIS system is very informational, and I think it would be definitely worth looking into. So I just wanted to say that. That's all. Just back you guys.
Any more questions for Cody or Rusty? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. We go back to number 4. 2025 budget discussion, prosecutor's office, Mr. Markey.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good to see everyone this morning, and Ms. Wally, Chief Assistant Prosecutor, is here. We're both going to have some comments. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss the budget today. I initially apologize for my late arrival. I was not at the coffee shop. I was in the courtroom, and this does somewhat highlight one of the matters that we're going to be discussing today, and that's staffing in our office. We do have, I want to hand this to everyone. Copies. I'll get this thing, do I get this thing? Thank you. We have cohesive teamwork in our office. Thank you, sir. Really welcome. Good morning. Good morning again.
I'll leave a copy of that for the record.
Indeed.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
So, I think I'd like to start, I'll be mindful of time. You know, you've got a lot to get through today, and you've already done a great deal. But, you know, we're truly facing a crisis in prosecution staffing. It's not just in our county or in our state. I mean, it's nationwide. We've been talking about this for some time. We actually right now, as of what I was informed of 2 weeks ago, have 3 counties in the state of Michigan that no one is running for prosecuting attorney. So we had a situation over the last few years where there were counties that did not have a prosecuting attorney. And the complexities that causes, everybody can well imagine. There are numerous reasons for that. This time, I mean, that's something I couldn't even wrap my head around a few years ago. But at this point in time, I mean, there's a number of reasons as to why that is. One of the primary reasons is MIDC, and Eric is going to comment on that dynamic now as to how hard it is to compete financially when you have a system that's in place for the defense side versus what we have as prosecutors. We recently just went 5 months short-staffed without an attorney, and it wasn't for lack of effort, trying to find someone to assist us. When Mr. Wanek left after being here 21 years, she keeps me straight on a daily basis, and will continue to do so this morning. But Erica became the chief assistant prosecuting attorney, doing a fabulous job, but we lost someone with 21 years of experience. I can tell you the volume and the complexity of cases has not decreased over this time. In fact, it's been just the opposite. I do have to take a moment to comment about the staff in the prosecutor's office. I'm very proud of them. They have one objective every day. That's to do the best job that they can. And that objective is to keep people safe. That's what it amounts to. There is no other agenda. There is no other goal or anything else. It's to keep people in this county as safe as possible. We have a unique office, and I know we discussed it previously when I've been here, but what happens in our office is different than other departments and offices. Trial work, things of that sort. There's no way you can do preparation during a work day. It's just not possible. So the number of hours that our staff has to work to handle those matters is above and beyond. And I do have to comment too, just briefly. I went to law school to be a prosecutor. That's what I wanted to do. I'm unusual. Everybody in this room will agree with that. But.
And on
Eric, yes. I didn't expect any of that.
Oh, sorry, it's your time.
Erica, that's right, thank you. Erica went to law school to be a prosecutor. It's what she wanted to do. That's unusual. We don't find a lot of people that go to law school for that particular reason. They go to law school for a variety of different things, but not to do this job. So as we're looking and trying to find people, and we used to not have trouble doing that. Even at our level of compensation, we'd have an opening for an assistant, you get 30 applicants. That isn't the case now. I mean, during that 5-month stretch, we were short. We were not getting applicants. And we were very fortunate to finally find someone that worked in a neighboring county that wanted to come here. In part because he heard about how great this office is, right, Erica? I think that's it. But our situation now, again, we've discussed this before. This isn't some chicken little sky is falling commentary. It's actually the dynamics that we're in, and we're trying to find a way to move forward. So what we're asking for at this point in time, and I'm going to ask you to, when Erica addresses the MIDC numbers, I know you're all aware of them, but the MIDC numbers shock the conscience in regard to, in comparison to the prosecutor's office. She'll highlight that. So we're asking for one more full-time assistant prosecutor and to maintain our part-time staffing. We have 3 part-time staffers. We have 1 part-time prosecutor right now, who is a retired former Bay County elected prosecuting attorney, which helps us keep our head above water with paperwork, but he can't come to court due to particular circumstances. So he helps there, but doesn't help in another area. And then part-time victim advocate. We have 1 advocate, and we're also looking for a part-time, which we have. These are things that we've had in the office. The part-time positions aren't being added. We've had those. What we're looking to add is the full-time assistant prosecutor. And I really would like to give the floor at this point to the best, and there's no doubt about that, the best chief assistant prosecutor in the state of Michigan at this point in time. Just wow.
Well, with an introduction like that, I hope I don't let you guys down. I do want to talk about how difficult it is to staff our office because of the disparity in our pay and the MIDC pay. So back when I went to law school, and Mark's correct, I did go to law school to be a prosecutor. That was my dream and still is to this day. But I went to law school wanting to be a prosecutor, knowing full well that I was not going to make a lot of money as well. And I was okay with that because that's what I wanted to do with my life, and that was my passion and my calling. Most people go to law school to make money. That's why they want to be lawyers. So when I went to law school and when I came out of law school, for me it was a no-brainer, and a lot of attorneys, when they came out of law school back when I graduated, were going into prosecutors' offices for a variety of reasons. Trial experience. It's one of the best places to get trial experience is as a prosecuting attorney. Steady pay, you don't have to worry about getting clients right off the bat, and growth of experience. And then after a few years, they would usually move on to a firm or something that they wanted to do, now that they had the experience in the courtroom. Back then, the state system for public defenders was all over the board. Some counties had public defenders' offices. Some counties like ours had a public defender contract. Other counties had different lists or different things for how they did their public defender assignment. Then MIDC was created, and it created a pretty even wage scale for public defenders across the state. It does vary by county, but not a ton. But here's the problem that our office faces, is that I did the math. If you are an MIDC attorney and you are representing misdemeanor cases, or if you're appearing as counsel at first appearance, your pay in Tuscola County is $125 an hour. If you are a MIDC attorney and you are handling felony cases, but not capital felony cases, so nothing punishable by life in prison, your pay is $137 an hour. And if you are a felony attorney with the experience to handle capital cases, like mainly what I do in our office, life offenses or somebody who's a habitual fourth offender, who is, penalty is up to life in prison by virtue of their habitual status, then you're making $150. So I did that math based on a 37.5-hour work week like I have, like my staff has. To come out of law school and only handle misdemeanor cases, because that's what you're pretty much prepared to do, fresh out of law school, on an MIDC appointment, if you worked just 37.5 billable hours per week, the same that my staff works, you would make $243,750 in a year. If you were capable of handling felony cases that were non-capital at that $137 an hour, and you worked 1,950 hours a year, which is how many we work, you would make $267,000 or $267,150,000. If you did capital offenses, like what I do on a daily basis, your CSCs, your murders, your assault with intent to murders, habitual fourth offender cases, at $150 an hour for 1,950 hours a year, you would make $292,500, almost $300,000, which is almost 3 times the elected prosecutor's salary in this county, which is, well, I'm not so good at math, but it's more than 3 times the chief assistant's salary, and it's, I think, more than 4 times the starting APA salary. So that's where the disparity comes in. And I'm not saying MIDC doesn't deserve to be paid, they absolutely do, but I think it makes it difficult for us when we can't pay that. We can't come near that. And so to fill these positions that we're gonna be filling come January, we're gonna be taking people fresh out of law school. In fact, the only applicants that we got this year when we posted our position were people who were fresh out of law school and were waiting for their bar results. So they hadn't even confirmed to be lawyers yet. And we can't offer them what MIDC can. So, but MIDC can also offer them all of the same things that we were offering them years ago with trial experience and with getting yourself into a courtroom and with learning the ins and outs of a criminal case. So we just can't compete at that level of pay. And what makes it worse, want me to continue or do you want to jump in?
No, you're not a whole lot, I'm smart, but.
What makes it worse is that we are salaried. So, doesn't matter how many hours a week I work, I make the same salary. An MIDC attorney, that's just if they only work 37.5 hours a week, but an MIDC attorney has billable hours. They are paid for every single hour they work, which is why I wanted to turn to exactly how many hours my office is working, at least 2 of us. I had 2 of us start tracking back in September, how many hours we work that are not part of our 37.5, so above and beyond. Since September 10th, the day I started tracking, or let me make sure that's accurate. I started tracking mine on September 6th. My colleague started tracking his on September 1st. So since the 1st of September, I have worked 93.5 hours above and beyond that I have not been paid for. I started logging them into Kronos as comp time, even though I'm not getting comp time for them, but that was my way of tracking them. Eric Hinojosa in my office, since September 1st, has worked a total of 54.2 hours above his 37.5 weekly hours. That together is 147.7 hours, which is almost exactly, it's about an hour and a half shy of 4 full weeks of pay. So in the past 2 months, just me and one other attorney in my office have worked 4 full weeks of unpaid time. This is why it's crucial for us to have another attorney in our office. We are losing a great prosecuting attorney. We're losing 31 years of experience, and Mark Green deserves to retire, don't get me wrong, but we are all gonna miss him. We also lost Eric Wanek, 21 years of experience. So in 2025, when I take over this office, hopefully after today, fingers crossed, we will be down 52 years of experience from last year. And I'm gonna need to fill the office with people who I can teach, and those people are gonna be straight out of law school. And so they're going to require trainings to go to. They're gonna have to go to prosecutor school. They're gonna have a senior attorney go with them to court for a period of time before they can ever go into court on their own because they're fresh out of law school. Those are the only applicants we're getting, which is why I'm asking and Mark is asking to add a position to our office. Because we're struggling right now, as you saw with Mr. Reed not even being able to be here on time for the meeting because he had to be in court. We don't have the coverage for court as it already is. And with the loss of experience that we're facing and the new hires that we will likely get that will need additional training, we're going to need 6 prosecutors in our office. And the elected chief assistant, 4 EPAs, and then our part-timer, so 6.5. And I just don't see any way that we survive going forward or we function going forward without an extra attorney because we're already barely surviving. And if you look at the number of hours that we're working, that we're not being paid for, I'm not even sure that I would call that surviving.
And just quickly to follow up on that, and again, we're mindful of your time, and we appreciate it today very much. What was tracked here since September, that's not aberrational time. That's reflective of what's going on pretty consistently, but certainly even more so since we lost, a chief assistant with 21 years of experience back in March, April. So these extra hours, that's not fleeting. It's just the way it is.
I can attest to that as, I didn't know that you could track this. I probably would have been tracking this for years if you could. This extra 93.5 hours that I've worked in the last 2 months is consistent for me for the last 8 years. I've always worked late, always been in the office, took my work home with me, and so did my staff. And that's the only way we can function, especially with, just the things that are being added that require court time for us. And there are now 4 specialty courts, and they're needed. Specialty courts are needed. But the courts are able to add additional staff for those. We haven't added any staff since any of the specialty courts have been added. The district court is adding a new program right now that's going to require prosecutor cooperation, which I also think is a great program. It's called Reaching Rural. And I don't know if Judge Fitzgerald's talked to any of you about it, but it's a great program. I'm still on board with it, but it's going to require time from our office as well. And additionally, the circuit court right now is scheduling 2 trials a week. 2 separate prosecuting attorneys need to be preparing for circuit court trials, which are felony trials, on the trial weeks instead of it was 1 previously. So now we've got 2 attorneys delving in to prepare trials.
Two trial dates in the same week.
Yeah, 2 trial dates in the same week. There's a Tuesday trial date and a Thursday trial date. It used to only be Tuesday.
Yeah, when you had a trial date, I mean, that still involved 6, 8, 10, 12 cases that you have to have ready for trial. It's not 1 or 2, you have to be ready on all those cases now. And this is new, this has never been the case before. Now there's actually 2 trial dates, which does tie up 2 attorneys because you can't have 1 attorney be in trial for 2.5 days and start a trial the very next day. It's just not fair.
Well, it's not fair to victims to have a prosecutor who's not devoted to their case because they were in trial the previous 2 days, so they, couldn't adequately prepare.
But it's, and Erica commented on it. Again, your office is different, and I've always believed, and I will forever, that, people that work in this county and are county employees do a good job. They do, everyone. They go the extra mile. Not always recognized by everyone, probably as it ought to be, but everybody does a great job. Our office is different though because of the subject matter you're dealing with. I mean, you can't day after day after day go to a child advocacy center and hear about the worst things that occur to children and then handle those cases and go along hour after hour above and beyond. You can't look at child pornography like Erica has to do on a regular basis in assessing cases that come to our office and not be impacted by it. So that's why we've got to do something to balance this. The work that's done by those attorneys, and I'll stand by it, is extraordinary. It just is. But we got to keep these folks here, give them the ability to still function. And that's just one other thing. Specialty courts we didn't have really 10 years ago. The Child Advocacy Center, which is the best thing that we ever developed in this county since I came here a couple days before 10 years ago. It takes time, right? But it's hours. It's hours to look at interviews, it's hours to analyze cases. And the other thing, despite some opinions at times, we have one objective, and that's to get things right. That's it. In order to get things right, you gotta spend time to do that. And you gotta be fair. You gotta be fair to everybody. You gotta be fair to victims, you gotta be fair to defendants, and that's what we do too. I mean, anybody who thinks that we have some agenda targeted one way or the other, that's not it. It's to serve justice, and we do. But it's not easy, and it takes time. What can we answer for you? What else can we provide to you that would be helpful with these requests?
I think we all know the disparity of what's coming down the road. We've talked about so many times that, crimes are getting more crimes. And all I can say, from my standpoint, yeah, it's gotta be looked at, we gotta take it into consideration, and we gotta, see what we can do.
Chairman, I got two comments. One, that's just 2 employees at 147 hours.
Yes.
So there's a lot more than that.
If I thought Mr. Reen could have handled the Chrono system to his, I would have taught him how to do that as well. If you would add his hours in, we would probably, between just the 3 of us, be a full-time employee working outside of office hours.
How much are you asking for?
I think it's on the sheet that was handed out. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, the full-time assistant prosecuting attorney slot, I believe, is $105,000.
Sorry.
Yes, and then the 2 part-time positions, we have those positions, but we're funded at, my understanding is last year it was $48,000 for the 3 positions. And 2 of them went largely unfilled this year due to a variety of dynamics, including the fact that we had to implement a new case and document management system in our office, which everybody at this point in time views as a bit of a nightmare, but in the future, it's gonna help. And so I think, yes, and so Mr. Commissioner, to answer that, it's the part-time APA, and then with the 3 part-time slots, like I say, we had, but I believe it was funded at $48,000 last year. When I looked at the first draft here, our part-time money was funded at $28,000.
A couple of questions.
Sure.
The MEDC lawyers, there's no fringe benefit package, right?
Correct.
And you said $137 an hour. Is that the standard out there, or do you get more or less?
That's the school accounting rate. I confirmed that yesterday, but I was told it does vary county by county. Let me get back to my, so for example, in Huron County, I was told that, for felonies, the $137 is actually $140 an hour, but it's pretty similar. But there is a slight difference county by county. But also to your question about the benefits, no, that doesn't include any benefits. They are paying for their benefits on their own. But when you're comparing a $243,750,000 to what it costs for one of our APAs, even with fringe benefits and being only $105, it's still quite a big difference.
And the MIDC, I mean, there's one thing, we comment on too. When that was first developed, there were comments about, well, prosecutors don't want this, they don't want, good attorneys to be across the board. Well, that's garbage. We want the best attorneys on the other side of the table, because that's how you get the best final product. It's not, certainly don't run from that, that's what we want to have. So that's not an issue, but the dollars are not being monitored by the state. They're not, that's one thing. I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago with our past presidents of our association and current officers, and we're discussing a lot of time spent on MIDC. It's not, it's not being audited in the manner it should be. The dollars and how it increases every year, it shocks the conscience. And in the meantime, you have half the system here that's left unaddressed, and then we'll be having to try to find answers.
And cases are going up every year. The number of cases that come into our office go up every year. I just had my office check. We're on track to, within the next 2 weeks, be at the total for last year, and then we still have 6 weeks left of the year that we will far exceed what we took in last year.
We were at the Michigan Association of Counties conference this fall, talking to the commissioners, this is a statewide problem. They all said that.
I'd like to remind the board that Jeff Stewart was here a couple weeks ago. It was 600,000 he was getting. Remember that, Claire? What was that dollar figure?
The
The state was
additional
getting?
funding from the actual MIDC.
Yes,
Yeah, he got additional funding because the standards for the lawyers, that the state's pushing down on us, those standards have to be followed by us. So the state is funding any of those increases.
right.
Our appropriation stays the same, but the state, put more money in to fund the attorneys.
And that's the one aspect of, what they handle is part of the final product that we address. We are, inundated with cases, as Erica says, we have to review. Not every case gets authorized. There has to be a thorough and deliberate review, and that's a significant number of cases. It also take time. So, yeah, we've seen this coming, but the model isn't gonna work. The other attorney whose hours that Erica mentioned, that's Mr. Hinojosa. The hours are just through the roof.
And the state has a much bigger budget than we do.
Yes.
They pay the wages.
Any more questions for, Mr. Reno or Eric?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, sorry for my being late.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Move on to number 7.
Is there a chance we can take a little break?
Pleasure of the board, Chairman. Where's Dad? You ready, sir?
Ready?
Welcome back to the full board meeting this morning. We just took a short pause. And we'll continue on with new business, and we're moving to number 7. The 20.25% of indirect costs on special notice tax revenue.
I can review this if you'd like me to.
Okay,
Obviously, we had 2 previous motions on the floor to reduce indirect costs. And on the chart, I referenced those 2 motions. The first motion was to reduce it or cap it at 5%. So any special bonus at that time, and then it was added during that same motion to include dispatch, that the indirect cost shouldn't exceed 5% of their total revenue or tax base revenue for the year. So every year we should be going through this exercise to see what does that mean as far as all our special bonus. So the top is all the special bonus together, and it shows that we have 3 of them this year that exceed the 5% cap. The voted recycling, mosquito, and MSU. Mosquito hit that only by 0.51%, but it does show that what the indirect cost, which is our preliminary draft indirect cost plan that we have right now, which I think is getting ready to be final. Debbie, is that correct?
Yes.
So these numbers are coming from that most current plan that we have. So to take that, print it out, present it to the commissioners to let them know the 2 motions and what that does for the general fund revenue for the indirect costs. Basically, the first one capping it at 5% shows that there's $86,740.90 less revenue. And then the motion that overrides that, we're looking at about almost $170,000 less indirect costs. The general fund should be couping the actual cost of various items that these departments and these funds require from the general fund. So as it stands right now then, I'm assuming that motion stands still. We've capped it at 2.5%. And what that means is this will be your budgeted indirect costs that we're going to charge. Voted recycling, voted mosquito, voted MSU, and then the dispatch as well. So your budget will include these numbers based on previous board motions, but I think it's important that you review this every year and you can see that you pay for an indirect cost for a reason. They identify the cost, but the board has overrode that on these items. Special voted was the initial one, but they, with dispatch, the previous director also said, for her millage, or not her millage, but her tax-based revenue coming through should also be, well, it's not even tax, it's phone surcharge revenue, to also be reduced, and it should be capped at that 2.5%. So that's just your review, that those are the numbers that are included. Just a reminder, as you look at your general fund and how your general fund is trying to sustain its operations, this is one of the reasons. If we would have this money in our revenue to expenditure budget for 25, we wouldn't be in a deficit situation where we are right now. Does anybody have any questions on that?
that's what I ask people.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Chairman, I think you were there during those times. I'm not sure about the rest of the board. And certainly Commissioner Young knows. There was great debate, as you recall, on this, and over a significant period of time, and the tenets of it were reviewed and how each department is being charged and what they're being charged. And it was an interesting journey. But I'm looking at that number at the bottom, the same as you are. I just listened to what you said. You wouldn't be in a deficit position. Certainly from the board's perspective, especially the board, we want this to be fair. But this is a very good illustration of what Well, there's two sides to this argument. The gentleman who argued, this isn't here, the commissioner anymore, but, it does have a significant impact. And, I guess the question, Colette, from your perspective, I know the revenue is very enticing, but is the fairness aspect still there? Or has, we've crept with other issues that would make, maybe the 5% isn't as realistic for the 2.5. Might have been then more realistic or more palatable than it is today. What are your thoughts?
I think when you're looking at these operations, and, as a dispatcher, we had a conversation earlier, he's on a fund balance burn, we know that. If we did charge him the full indirect costs, we know that would make it that much quicker for him too. So, I mean,
This one, yeah.
take it out of one pot and throw it in another, and I think that's why that discussion was had and that one was particularly added. But also if you look at, any of these other operations, what would happen if their expenses, because this is an expense to them, outweigh their revenue, which we do have the funds that are getting that, and we're gonna talk about not only indirect costs, but the appropriations, what it's doing to the general fund, when all these other funds are dependent on your general fund also has to sustain operations, and those decisions have to be made on, looking over the departments in the general fund, such as the prosecutor's office, that, they have their concerns moving forward, and they have, a valid argument, just like everybody else does. So those tough decisions, you got to determine, where the money's gonna go, and where we're gonna have to cut, so we can give one more money than the other. I mean, it's not gonna be an easy decision, but I'm here just to lay out, the problems and, the amounts, and for you guys to make those decisions.
So Chairman, I'm glad we got to that point, because that segued into where we're at today, and it really was a cost shift. And 9/11 is a pretty good example of that. If we would take more, it would accelerate the depletion of the fund balance, as well as all the rest, unless they are in a position where they have a good fund. So it really begs the question. It leads us to, you think it would lead to the point that we can see the impending, to take this down a few years from now. We're running out of options. It's not hitting the departments, it's hitting the county. If it's not hitting the county, it's hitting the departments. But the real issue here is revenue and how to sustain it at a time when expenses are incrementally, or more than exponentially increasing across the board. That's the opportunity cost that we shifted and the impact. Going to do a little bit of MRTC and that did happen. Fund half is something, but forget to fund the rest, which relies upon the county, basically. I want to point that out. This is really, even though that revenue figure, that lost revenue looks like it would be very opportunistic for us. The departments would be very bad.
We need to get that chart back out that shows revenue versus expenses every month, so we can see how far the lines apart. It's pretty simple. It'll be more expenses than revenue.
Yeah, the 10-year review that I did do prior to my first retirement, in reviewing that, looking at, because I always like to challenge myself and how well I did, the revenues are probably, you're looking at about, $16 to $17 million revenue. I hit it about by $134,000. So it is unfolding as we thought it would. Your revenue growth is more like 1.34%. Your expenditure growth is hitting 8%. So obviously it's a perfect storm. 26, 27 still isn't the challenge, so, and it's looking that way, for multiple funds, so when it happens in, the funds that I've identified on page 4 of your workbook too, they're going to need some kind of adjustment, and the only help comes at this point in time, the only help is from the general fund, or you reduce your
So-
expenditures in those funds.
We have a company comes in and does this for us and tells us what our allocation should be or whatever,
Yes.
which we've always done, right, for as long as we've been around, except for when we changed it here 5 or 6 years ago. So is it something we should look at just changing the, maybe the cabinet, the 2.5, or we're still benefiting from targets? And what's your thoughts on it? You know, because like you said, you take one money from one pot, put it in another pot, then take it from another pot, put it. Does it make any difference which way we go if we bring it back to the general fund, if money doesn't go back up to these departments to help, you know, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, and the budget is the draft, first draft budget is based on us using board motion back in 21 that stated to cap these, so, it's just that every year you need to see what that number means
Right.
to your bottom line.
Well, we talked about it back then, we had discussion what was good to us back then.
But, I mean, you know, you look at the dispatch fund, how, you know, it could have been impacted. Yeah, the dispatch fund requires, you know, payroll, legal, different things identified in that book, which will, be presented to you guys and can be, you know, reviewed in depth a little bit more. But they have identified that the cost of operations, that dispatch does in fact, indirect cost, plan says it costs $92,619 of time and resources from your indirect cost departments in the general fund. So they've identified it, you know, that's our legal authority who we hired to do that, so we can use that to capture federal funding or state funding. But again, if you were to continue to do that, then the dispatch fund would be in trouble soon. So, I mean, it's helping. It's helping the dispatch fund, because what happens when they do reach that time? They're gonna be looking for somebody to throw an anchor, something to, you know, to keep operations going. So, I mean, I can see the theory of let's back off a little bit on what we charge. There's a motion, the board has went on record to say to do it. But at the same time, you know, it's up to your financial person to remind you and to show you what that means from year to year, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
At the end of the year, it's all the same pot of money, right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, decisions could be made that, you know, these funds have to live within their means. But with health insurance costs going on, things, circumstances beyond your control, what it costs for your wage fringe packages, you know, it's gotten extremely high. And I just, if you look at the general fund alone, I was curious on that. If you look at just your wages in the general fund, so we're talking about your, you know, almost $17 million budget, your wages is $5.5 million. If you add your fringes onto that, it's $10,928,000 of your $16,763,000 budget is wage fringes. So and that number can grow every year, because you can't keep employees at the same wage they made 5 years ago, obviously, with the inflation factors that we're dealing with in today's market, so.
I'm looking at the prosecuting attorney, their fringe package is almost $40,000.
For one employee.
Right.
So you times that out, that's what I mean, that's where you jump from $5.5 million to $10 million. Basically, it's almost 50-50, what you pay in wage fringes, or what you're paying in wage is what you're paying in fringes.
You're paying more fringes than you work half the wages.
In some cases, it could be based on positions, so.
Chair, I have a question for On the chart, on the cap and actual, let's just use voted MSU. It's got the 5% cap, but the actual's 15.1. So that was the actual indirect estimated calculation, or what is that?
Right, so the calculation is based on the total millage, the 229,000 for 25. And then the indirect costs, that's on the plan, says that we need to be charging them that dollar amount, 34,000. So that's 15.1% of their revenue is indirect cost.
So have you considered, or perhaps the board should think on this, that there should be a ceiling or a threshold? And I just picked MSU because it was 15. If you look at the other ones, they're not nowhere near that, respectively, other than maybe recycling. That should be an incremental increase in that cap?
Well, the cap plan takes your expenditures, what happened at the end of 24, calculates it out. So whatever happened at MSU that increased their cost in the cap plan, which still needs to get, reviewed, once we're ready to come before you, they can tell you exactly why that cost was that amount in the breakdowns in the cost plan. We had problems with that a few years ago with recycling because recycling had moved out to the new location, Buildings and Grounds was recording a lot of time out there. So when you look at the time study sheets, it showed, a lot of their time was spent at the Athens Center. Well, we were saving money because Buildings and Grounds Department was doing, some of the work out there. But unfortunately, when you do timesheet studies and you report that to MGT, it says they were spending all that time out there. So therefore, they're gonna get hit because their service was redirected to that facility. So that's kind of how it works. It's the time that, the departments work out there. It's your, your legal costs, your personnel costs, journal entries, receiving, all that kind of stuff that's going on. So yeah, it's high, and that's, we'll jump into those details on what made up that $34,649. What happened during that year that, what department spent more time out there for whatever reason.
So just to follow up, thought or question, basically, the administrative burden as it grows in perpetuity is captured, it's really not captured, it's limited to 5%. So unless there's administrative efficiencies, which I don't know what that would be of all the years the boards have been sitting here, that would have an impact and reduce it to any significant amount. But that administrative burden is not something that's stacked, is it?
Burden as far as
Indirect
determining the costs.
Yeah, how they, how you capture the indirect costs.
Right, it's the same.
Depends on the metrics, like you said.
Yep.
Recycling, you have to spend a lot of time on recycling, putting grounds out there, but it's a creep.
And the cap now, with the motion in November of 21, we're at 2.5%. So what would have been 15.1 is now 2.5. Therefore, instead of recouping 34,000, we're recouping the 5,736, which helps your special voted money to go towards that project more. But there's a cost of doing business, so to speak. That's why we have that.
I guess it really doesn't come into play unless you have a financial constraint at a higher level like the county, because if we had more revenue, it probably wouldn't come into play. It's just that, and the arguments were valid back then, these are voted in, let's cap it so that this money is used when it was voted in for, which was specifically for different, like recycling. So, needless to say, it's, there's a plus and minus to it, but obviously we're looking at it right now because, as you said, we're moving into a deficit.
I mean, it is good that we do have, we usually carry an unassigned fund balance around 500,000, and we're starting 25 with approximately 52,000. So that kind of unassigned number, you know, can be used to cushion the blow from year to year, but if you can't use it consistently, because next year your unassigned fund balance will drop, you know, and if your revenues, I used to call it pennies from heaven, don't happen, then your revenue is going to continue on that slow, very slow growth from 1.4%. And obviously, we know what's happening with the expenditures as far as health insurance. We had to jump that 36% up just this year alone, so we know stuff like that's happening that you can't control, just like the revenue sometimes, other than if that wind turbine farm potentially develops, you might have a little uptick in some revenue. I would call that maybe a little few pennies from heaven there, but I don't know when that's going to be in place, and when is that revenue going to be recorded. I haven't worked out none of the numbers because nothing's solid right now, I'm thinking, so.
No further questions.
Okay, maybe something on that the finance, you need to take a look at it, maybe. There might be another solution. I mean, from 15 to 2.5 to 15, there's such a security there, I don't know. But something I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, Cliff, so we don't forget what we did back then, how it does affect us.
And this worksheet and everything is saved in a drive, a shared drive that we have in our office that Debbie knows where it's at too, and she's aware of how this data is collected. It's something that if you don't see, you know, next year, that you should probably ask about, you know?
Right.
And it's hard because this year we're late at the CAP plan going because of information that was delayed and that should have filtered to us and with that, but we're working hard on it and we're able to produce some numbers, so. But these are the numbers that are worked in the budget, and we're not charging these particular funds anything different than what this motion 21M to advise us to do.
Okay. Anything else for Cliff out of this? All right, move on to number 8. 2025 baseline general fund budget, primary guidelines and assumptions. Claire?
So I want to start with, it's just like a page and a quarter of what I found working through your numbers, identifying factors, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I call it, of what's happening with your budget going into 2025. So your property tax is showing an increase of about 5.7%. That's normal average growth. So you're looking at your property increases in the general fund. So in terms of dollars, it's not a whole lot, but it's another $452,000 more in 25 than what we got in 24. Wind tax is doing as expected. The descent is scheduled. No new wind farms being constructed. That's my assumptions at this point in time. So your decline on your wind tax revenue is at about 4.6%, or $55,000 less. So where you gain in one, you're losing in the other. Net effect is probably about $400,000. Did a little bit of history. Your highest reported revenue for wind in the general fund was at 1.5 million. So think if we were at 1.5 million and now we're down considerably to more of, you know, a $400,000 range moving forward. State revenue sharing, you know, I noticed there's some different little things going on with that. When you look at the bottom line, actual revenue sharing line item, it's only showing 1.9% increase from 24 to 25. And I think because Treasury got a few little new quirks with that, they've designated money to be spent. We're gonna give it to you, but it's gonna have to be designated for specific items. So in 24, they had a line item called public safety revenue sharing, where they gave us $24,000. I don't see them giving us any more public safety revenue sharing this for 25. I've been looking for it, and I don't see where they've identified it. They did introduce a taxable value of payment under section 955. It's showing they'll give us 156,000. So, it's gonna be recorded in your state revenue sharing line item, but I wanna do a little bit deeper dive on, are they very specific of how they want that spent? Public safety, obviously, our public safety costs in the general fund far exceeds the $24,000 they gave us just for jail operations alone. So you got enough to show that, yeah, it came to the general fund, but here's the cost of our public safety in the general fund, and it's being used towards that. Earnings on investments continues to grow. High five for the county treasurer on this one. Again, this is some good news. Since 22, we've experienced $589,935 in increases. So it's a save the day wise investments that the treasurer's been doing. I don't know where we would be if we didn't have it. I used to say that about wind too. Where would we be without wind? Now it's where would we be without these interest earnings that we've been getting. So kudos to the treasurer. Delinquent tax earnings, they're expected to be flat. I know, me and the treasurer are looking at an entry that was made by the former controller administrator that we're still trying to sort out. It makes it look like there's an issue with the revenue, but we were pretty solid that it's kind of sort of still there, and so I'm looking at to be flat and stay at the same dollar amount for 25. That's one of the issues I would like the internal auditors, once we make a decision on, to do a deeper dive on that one. That's it for the revenues. Does anybody have any questions on, you know, what we've identified so far on that, or at least moving into 25? If not, I'll slide right into the expenditure assumptions. So the wages, all the union contracts were settled previously. We have a variance on wage increases from 1.5% to 5% on the union contracts. At this point in time, 3% for non-union employees is worked into the budget for these numbers. The step increases, of course, are in there. So the estimated general fund wage cost increase is about this is just your wage side, not your fringe side, is about $188,000 more from 1 year to the next with all those given increases across the board. The total wage, as I mentioned, if you look at your general fund budget and you add just your wage fringe line items, they are a little over $10 million of your total $16.7 million budget. I did go back in previous years to see how much more that wage fringe is consuming, but that is a good chunk of where your money is going. Obviously, because you can't run these departments without the employees. Health insurance, I mentioned in 23 to 24, we had that late bloom of spike in our insurance that wasn't, that we didn't know about when we adopted the 24 budget, so we just adjusted those with board action. It's looking 36.6% increase that we had to account for in our 24 budget. And then with that big jump then of 9.1% after those budgets are amended for the 25. We still need to do a final review on that. I suspect that number should be higher, but that's the number that's coming in right now. And I hate to see a 9.1% increase, but something tells me it's probably higher than that. So we're going to continue to look at that and get a handle on that before we get our final review done. This baseline budget has no staffing increase. The only thing that's in there is if the department has a vacancy that held a person before, that vacancy is budgeted for. So there's no positions that went away that are expected to be refilled. So there's no hiring freeze in play or anything else. So we assume that those positions will be filled and we did budget for them. General fund appropriations, this is where Really gonna need the commissioners to pay attention to some of this stuff. We got some issues opening up on court, front of the court, child care fund, equipment tech funds, areas it's going to need, potentially need the general fund, either assistance, or we need to work together to determine what's going on. Because we can't budget a deficit situation, and when you look at page 4 and 5 of your books, anything that's in red is considered a potential budget violation, so we can't adapt anything the way it is now. We got some work to do on this. So right now, what's in the budget for appropriation is the animal control additional transfer of $30,601. That's to maintain a balanced budget, so we don't have a deficit situation over there. I think moving forward, if you look at the animal control budget on page, I think it's on page 4. Let's see that here. Yeah, it's fund 239 on page 4. It's showing, if we don't fix the problem in 24, moving forward, the expected problem, then the problem's going to continue to go down. Or it's going to continue to stay in deficit. So we got some work to do in 24 on that. Front of the court appropriation remains the same in 24. However, this is $163,259 over the 22 in previous years. So again, we got a gap opening up in that front of the court budget. Estimated to end 24 in a deficit, so we've got work to do in 24. And for next year, even the revenue to expenditures in next year is showing another $93,000 deficit. So we've got to fix that. The budget can't be adopted with any deficit type situations like this. The 292 child care fund, that's going to be, if you want to look at the summary of beginning and family, at beginning and ending fund balances, you want to turn to page 5, and it's fund 292. It's highlighted in yellow, and you'll see the red gap opening up based on the budget assumptions for 25, expenditures versus revenue. That's where it's showing a budgeted deficit. We're going to lose about $253,000 in money that we basically don't have in that fund. So if the way that general fund has been funding the child care fund over the years, they're going to need more money. That appropriation, obviously, you can see on paper, they're going to need more money to operate. And we're going to be hitting about $500,000 because the funds, the expenditures in that fund have that steady growth and the revenues do not. So that one's going to cost the general fund a lot of money.
Another question. Isn't this the fund that we've had presentations in the past, that basically it's reimbursement delay, and apparently, if that is true, apparently the reimbursements are not keeping up with the expense. Something's happening.
Well, and I accounted for the CRP coming in later at times too, but even with doing that, it's still not, it's not at that level to where we used to see it. So I know they have discussed it with us, and there have been some changes in what they can and cannot ask for, or the calculations of it. But if you do a history on that, when you look at that revenue versus expenditure, the revenue was obviously a little bit higher. So something did change to where we need to really see what other kind of funding sources that we can get to run that child care fund. Obviously, it's important. You know, we had child care placed out of state, too, because we don't have placements in state. So there's all kinds of problems that are, it's not necessarily, the fault of anybody other than, regardless of what happens with the children in Tuscaloosa County, we've got to take care of that expense.
You say other funding sources? Is that funding coming from?
I don't know. General fund, is the only place that has been, and like I said, that's growing up to about $500,000 dependency on the general fund to sustain operations there. And it could get worse if there's more problems with, placement and stuff like that. The expenses could grow. So the best decision is some of the programs they have in place now to keep the kids out of placement, to, get them going in the right direction early on. So, and I think they're doing a good job over there, like community gardens and different things like that going on, but it's one of those, necessary expenses too, as a county, So, but right now, I've assumed we're gonna continue to fund it like we did in the past. I put it down on paper, and that's where you see, potentially another 250,000 is going to need if we keep the budget the same way it does. So you either reduce expenditures or you increase your revenues.
That's
Yeah, and then that kind of operation, I don't know how you're going to be able to cut that. So maybe a combination of both. I don't know. The senior citizens fund 297, you can look at the summary on page 5. The general fund appropriation was still in there. I had to zero it out because we gave them money that was for a temporary. In 23, the commissioners appropriated 177,000, and then 163,000 in 2004. This was to assist with the home delivered meals program. Somehow that 163 was back in the budget, so I removed it because there wasn't board action to continue that appropriation. I know we did the voted millage, but keep this in mind, when we started doing the budget, we thought we were gonna have to budget in 25 for the new, home delivered meals voted millage, I don't know if I have the wording right. But that's not assessed until the fall of 25, which means you're not gonna see none of that money in 25. So we still got the home delivered meals that have to be funded in some manner. So I did talk to the ladies at the Human Development Commission, was able to look at their budget, and I think I'll probably go into that detail a little bit later in here too. But basically, we're able to, with their fund balance, take 160,000 and put it on the line item for the meals. And then the stuff that was in that line item before that went into their general appropriations, so their general appropriation increase, between their increase there and 160,000 that we're able to use in their fund balance, they're gonna be able to hopefully get through 25 with that until the millage kicks in 26.
So the new millage doesn't kick in until January 1st, 26?
Correct. Yes, the assessments happen at the end of the year of 25. So, so keep in mind that we got the fund created, but there's no revenues and no expenditures until they actually will occur in 2026. So if you look at page 5, Fund 297, senior citizen, you'll see the fund balance. What that means is I can still budget, have $1,700 left in the fund balance, but we're eating up 143,000 of that fund balance to go towards that, for the Meals on Wheels for 25. So we made it happen without asking the general fund. But again, keep in mind, that's no guarantee by the end of 2025, we might have another problem, another gap open up. And they may come before this board near the end of 25, because since that millage money isn't gonna be in until the next year. So, we're hoping that they can sustain that. But I wouldn't be surprised if, come the end of the year, maybe October-ish, hopefully not sooner, that they may come and ask the board for some additional funds for the Meals on Wheels.
They were here last time, we asked them, is the list growing? And they said, 50 or 60 this year so far.
Yeah, it's growing. I don't think there's a wait list there, last I knew, but yeah, it's growing.
just, keep that in mind. Don't be surprised if it happens. I don't know financially where we're gonna be by that time.
This is Mary Ann from Human Development Commission. That is correct. We do not have a wait list as it stands right now.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
You're welcome.
So the next item is the EDC did ask and present and ask for $41,000 over their $120,000 appropriation. That is worked in the draft budget right now, so keep that in mind. And next time I will have another list of the requests that came at you today, as well as these items too, what they mean to your budget. But that additional EDC request we looked into a baseline budget. Right now in your baseline budget, nothing has been identified on what we're going to transfer to equipment tech in capital line items. That's the ones that we have been in the last few years, been using your, we'll still reference it as PGS fund balance in the general fund, which we anticipate to be beginning, we're at about 2.6 million of monies available, one-time deals of money. You might want to consider locking some of that down for general fund operations. You're getting down to the wire, and you really need to seriously consider, on top of your unassigned, which is about 682,000 right now. The way things are going and the way the requests are coming in and how these operations are headed, I still think that 26, 27, it's gonna get worse. Things are gonna get, so you might wanna lock down some stuff a little bit. Hopefully, wind and other things come to town and the taxes can increase a little bit more. But we all know the inflation can only go so high before it crashes.
We don't think the health insurance is ever gonna come down.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's a Shelley question, but it does not look good. And I've been leaving out and watching that because I think for health insurance out of my pocket in retirement. So that cost is going up.
Just a question, Joe. When you say lockdown, does that mean conservative appropriation?
Yeah, I have my own terminology. We're not textbooks.
I just wanted to get good confirmation. I thought I knew what you were saying, but.
Chairman, what about the 295 on the voted veterans? I see it's in the red over there.
Yeah, if you review all of these, the voted veterans, I suspect I've got to work and see if that budget request coming in can be reduced. Should be at least reduced by, it's showing you're at 1,464 deficit. So worst case scenario is you got to at least reduce that expenditure budget by a couple $1,000s. If there's a reason why that they need to burn some of that fund balance off. And sometimes there is. Sometimes you build up a fund balance just so you know you're gonna use it, but you can't use more than what you got. That's what's happening here. So that could be an easy fix. I'm getting with Mr. Zimmerski out there and looking at those expenses again. And see if we can take them down at least a couple thousand or more. And then that will put that fund back on track again. Not looking at any appropriations on that one.
All right. Other information, are there any more questions for Cal? Let's just go through all of it. Appreciate you coming back, help us out here, good time.
Like I said, it's my county, it's my tax
I hear ya.
dollars, and I do appreciate you guys being leaders for the county. So, I did agree to come back and get this budget on track. Hopefully, and we get things rolling, and then, we find the next controller administrator to take it from here, and hopefully nothing but growth in the future.
Okay.
I do want to run through the book though, and so down the book, I want to kind of scan through.
Oh, you haven't done that?
Nope. I'm just getting started, guys.
Just get started.
That was your
Do
warm.
we have any, is there any timer around here?
Right? I think I should- Are you gonna time around yet, 'cause I'm faster?
No, I'm not.
Okay,
So
so
this-
Kevin,
We're still on number 8, right?
yes.
Okay.
So, the fiscal personnel analyst and HR director and everybody's been scrambling, trying to get these numbers together. We want to see what our first baseline looks like. What does it mean to the bottom line, and where do we go from here? How do we fix it, what are we gonna add to it? And all of that stuff that was talked about today, as well as a couple other requests that came in. It's gonna come back before you again, for you to make decisions. I wanted you guys to look and see where we're at before all the heavy hitter stuff hasn't been applied to it yet. So we ran your 24 all funds budgets to kind of see where we're gonna land 24. That's on page number 1. And as you can see, we still got work to do on your 24 budget as far as the front report, the victim services fund, and the animal shelter fund. So either there's, expenses that can be fixed, there's revenue that, we're gonna get that hasn't been reported. Worst case scenarios, general fund's gotta fix these before we get ready for our 24 year-end audit. You can't remain in this deficit situation. Those 3, page 2, all your other funds are showing. I kind of added another column for you guys this year, just so you can see the effects on the fund balance, because some are growing, some are being reduced, but if you don't see red, then that means we're okay. Page 3 is, again, you don't see any red on that page. So basically where we're looking at for 24 is just, we got those 3 funds that we gotta take a look at to end 24 and get ready for the 24 audit. Now going into 25, again, if we don't fix them, I carried that problem over, even though we can't carry the problem over, it's gotta get taken care of. But for visual aid, I wanted you to see under 25 all funds, which starts on page 4, you'll see the preventive work, the victim services, and the animal shelter assumed at this point they haven't been fixed yet. So you're starting off on the bad foot. Obviously, those have to get fixed. We can't start off on the bad foot for those. But now the problem grows. So now just looking at your 25 numbers, your estimated first blush draft budgets. Again, the preventive reports deficit continues to grow. So we know 25 has to be reviewed and looked at, because even if we zero that $10,000 deficit out, we still have expenses exceeding revenues on what's available for the criminal court funds. So we gotta look at that one. Victim services and animal shelter. Actually, if you look at revenue and expenditures, it's increased by $249. So if you fix the problem in 24, your 25 budget would show a growth. It's very small. $249 is a very small fund balance to have, but it could happen on paper. The equipment tech fund, right now, we have to determine, the only reason why it's showing deficit, we haven't determined what kind of revenue we're putting in there. So once you guys approve those projects and you want to fund them, we'll offset that expense with whatever revenue you want to put in there, and that will straighten up that budget. The Victim of Crime Act grant for $255, for some reason right now, the expenditure budget is higher than what the grant has been approved. So that budget will have to be adjusted one way or another. And we don't normally put any extra funds into the grant funded positions. I believe in our general appropriations act, it says these grant funded positions, if the grant goes away, the program goes away. So we'll take a look at that, but it is showing up, on our draft as it having a potential $20,000 deficit. So we'll figure out what's going on there. Page 5, again, the child care fund, the 292, the gap opens up. We gotta figure out, this one was a big gap, it's almost $250,000. So the appropriation, even if we added on another 100,000, it's still not enough in the appropriation to get the child care fund short up for 25. So this one will be we seriously need to look at this one and get it fixed.
So Clay, I'm sorry, but what do you think's driving that?
There's not enough revenue for the operation. So there's the chargebacks that they do, in chargeback funding, there's a calculation that they take, how everybody's time is spent, they're able to recoup a percent of this cost. General fund appropriations continue to grow, and the chargebacks are either flat or sometimes go down just a little bit. So with that, which is their major, revenue source, the general fund has to come up from behind and lift them up so they can sustain operations. The voted veterans, as I mentioned earlier, I'll get with Mr. Zemersky on that to see what can get reduced in his expenditure side, and he'll be fine. Because he started the year off with 23,000 in fund balance, where it's anticipated. So I don't know why his expenditures are so much higher than his anticipated revenue, but we'll figure it out. I think that was hopefully be an easy fix. And then the other funds, your internal service fund, the proprietary funds are looking pretty good. Your tax foreclosure fund is showing, obviously, the $1.5 million use of fund balance in 25. So your bottom line for 25 on paper right now is $4.1 million of your $74 million budget that's going to be use of reserves or fund balance across all your funds. Page 7 and 8 is which one is this?
It's not the written.
Yeah, it's not really, is it? It's just your tax-based revenues. It's your taxes. Yeah. Yeah, all your budgets. So it shows your requested, where you're at. You can kind of look and see what the change is from 24 to 25. And each one of those. And all of them show growth. Well, why does it show growth here? So if your senior citizens fund 24 is at 110, there might be something different in the calculation here. But it kind of gives you an idea of 24 what it was and 25 where it's going. And page 9, it shows your general fund basically total by fund, shows your revenue, shows your expenditures total by each department, and this is where you see your bottom line. You have a deficit of $149,141. So just off the bat, your basic revenues, your basic expenditures, without adding anything else to it, we got almost $150,000 deficit, which we'll have to use fund balance reserves, obviously, to balance this. And once we get a balance, then the other requests, the other expenditure requests that are coming in, because there's no more revenue, will come from your reserves, your fund balance reserves, the PGS or your regular fund balance reserves. So anything over and above will hit this bottom line. So it's going to be substantial. The next few pages goes into detail of all your revenues. It shows you by line item what's happening. It shows you your 23 activity, what's going on in 24, and what the first draft budget is projected to be at. So if you need to look at any details all the way across in any of the departments throughout the general fund, put this as a point of reference that you can use. The discussions are happening. Of course, we'll give you new worksheets on any changes. Page 24 is your transfer outs. So right now, we've got about $2 million of money that's going to be transferred out of the general fund, and it breaks it down on where they're going. Front of the court's at $432,970 right now, and as we've seen, they might be, another couple $100,000 to get their budget back on track so they're not in deficit. So all of those items we talked about with the other funds having deficit type situations are gonna they'll be hit here as transferred out from the general fund. Again, you'll see our deficit of $149,121. Page 25 further just pulls out your transfers and kind of showing you from 1 year, actually 2 years. It shows you what's been happening with those funds back in 2020, way back now. In 2020, your credit corporate transfers were at $282,970 to where we're at today at $432,970, and it's still not enough. We still got, we still gonna have to do something there. $282,970 was pretty much a consistent in history. There were some years that were worse than others where you had to sometimes increase that appropriation. Kind of gives you an idea when you look back and compare it moving forward on what's happening. Equipment tech fund has been, a couple $100,000 and then 600, 14,000. All depends on what the needs are for that year. Page 26. That's the 240, yes, so that's your equipment tech fund history. For 23, 24, and where we're at right now. Your 25 requests are coming up next, I think. I'm gonna let Debbie cover that. She's been compiling all that information. Page 33, where it gets into the requests that we've received so far.
What page did we keep that?
Page 33.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So on page 33, these are the requests that have come in so far for the IT department. As you can see, the servers, workstations, switches, fiber build out. So this is to start a regular scheduled build out and to replace old cabling, door access controls, to start a regular scheduled build out, cameras, to start a regular scheduled build out, printers, as part of the capital outlay, dispatch cameras, for 10,000 an update to dispatch cameras to county camera system, dispatch phones for 10,000, move non-emergency lines to county phone system, the PSB video wall for 50,000. This is a video display for the PSB building for the main room and emergency services, microfilm general ledger, and the microfilm building permits. These are actually projects that we need to be looking into for the future. Doesn't necessarily have to be done next year, but does need to be done as soon as possible. And then I've got the drain commissioner. She already presented her request for the new truck. They want to trade in their current vehicle and to adjust the purchasing expense. The value of the new truck is $60,000, less the trade-in and rebates are approximately $22,165. So the 2025 budget request is an estimate of $38,550. Buildings and grounds. So for the whole building parking lot, They need to resurface that. They're requesting 50,000. The courthouse sidewalks need repair. They're requesting 35,000 for that. Moving on to page 34. The jail parking lot needs to be sealed. They're asking 8,000 for that. The annex building parking lot needs to be resurfaced. They're asking 100,000 for that. The health department, which would include the DHHS building and the dispatch building, it's all one building, needs a roof replacement. They're asking 200,000 for that. The animal shelter needs a door replacement. They're asking 3,000 for that. Adult probation needs an HVAC system improvement, for 25,000. Dispatch needs window replacement for 20,000. And then we have the PSB building, People State Building remodel project to be completed in 2025. Estimated project for costs to complete this project would be 100,000. And then we have 550,000 to improve jail since we're not building a new one. For a grand total of $1,343,000, of that, 541,000 would come from the 483 fund, 252,000 would come from the 244 fund, and then the jail improvements is 550. The only is the part that's a carryover would be the PSB building for 100,000. So the total not funded that you need to be thinking of for appropriations is 1,243,000. And if you have any questions of any of these projects, I'm sure Ian or Mr. Miller would be able to answer your questions.
Any questions for Deb? Thank you. She go into the budget calendar too.
And then the last page is, I just want to remind you where we're at on the budget development calendar. So for our next review would be on November 14th. And that will be our final review of the 2025 budget before the public hearing. So hopefully at that time, all the 2025 requests will be updated and you'll have that before to review. And then our final review is November 25th or before the public hearing on December 12th. Okay.
So we kind of need to know some kind of direction on all the requests that happened today too. And where do we put them in as preliminary numbers and show you if you were to approve them, this could be the case scenario. I mean, we could throw it out there in two different, we do that, this is our first draft. We could do a second draft and maybe a draft A and B with your assumptions moving forward on what, obviously, equipment, tech items, still looking at using the PGS funds. If that's still the direction, we could put that in there and we could budget the use of those funds. So it doesn't mess with your bottom line. The bottom line still has to get adjusted and fixed. So we have to budget the use of fund balance for that 149,000 just to make us solvent and then go from there. As far as the other requests that are coming in and what that means to the general fund bottom line. Which, we'll make it, we can equal it out by using reserves, but then your gap's gonna open up as far as some of the requests that came in today. The biggest one, I think, was $165,315 for additional staffing in the prosecutor's office. So that would be an increase in your general fund legacy cost, which, or you have to use the 700,000 you got sitting there that is a one-time cost, but you gotta look at legacy costs moving forward. We'll look at the revenues one more time, make sure we're not missing anything. So I don't know. where we're gonna be at, but I guess what we'll do is a couple different scenarios. Unless the commissioners want to take any action today to tell us to solid on any of these decisions at all. The equipment tech, the jail fund that we want for that need for the jail,
We got that in
yeah, that they have their own money set aside still. So the jail capital improvement fund on page 5 on the bottom there, Fund 488, we got the 550 in there. We still have a fund balance of 236,000, but we're dwindling that away. We put over $1 million aside, and we just keep hitting it until it's gonna be gone, and the jail's still falling apart. So you're putting a Band-Aid on, you're putting a $550,000 Band-Aid on something, but the people are looking, I guess, and what that means in the future and the safety of the employees as well as the inmates you gotta consider. I don't know where you're going with that. But,
Mr. Chair, I was going to pause for a little. I think, all the things that you've talked about, the easiest one probably is to take care of the 149, 411. Is it not? I mean, that brings it up to,
yeah, I mean, that would get you the budget solid, which I feel a little bit more comfortable about.
that seems like the best place to start. I mean, that's the pleasure of the board, and then from there, each one of these requests, individual or in combination, would have to be evaluated. As a first pass, it would be, you could perhaps provide us, what's that look like? Well, most of this stuff is coming from the GSP funds.
When you're looking at what Debbie just presented, as far as the 244 fund and the 483 fund, that we would reduce the PGS general fund balance by that dollar amount to sign all of those tasks. Now, in that sheet is the drain commissioner's truck that was presented today too, because that would be paid for out of the 244 fund. If you look at that list, it covered some of the stuff that was presented today. So you'd be taking care of two things at once. Or you could say, you know, we can go through this list. I know most of this stuff needs to get done. I mean, and Mr. Miller, our director of buildings and grounds, does have I think a 10-year out there too, that, you know, some of these buildings, some serious money. And your 483 fund, again, we've been basically transferring over there what we're using. But the intent there was to try to build that fund balance up. Again, looking for that, you know, the bad years ahead to make sure you can still, you know, if you got a roof that goes down or an HVAC system that goes out or, you know, an earthquake and the parking lot's cracked apart. I mean, anything could happen, that you want to make sure you don't take the fund balance and the capital improvement fund down too low either. So at least by, you know, getting the projects and approving them every year is fine, but when your PGS general fund balance is gone, then.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mike Miller. How do you see the cost of supplies? Is it steady, still going up, coming down?
Oh, they're still going up,
Still going up?
and the availability is questionable.
So Chairman, back to Clint, in looking at the capitals, which includes the truck and some others, and I'm not sure, it seemed like Debbie had mentioned that some of the, maybe I'm totally off base, some of the IT work, I guess it's all necessary. But the next, you just mentioned, we normally approve these one at a time as they come up, but the $1,243,000 would come out of the PGS fund.
Well, no, not all of it.
Not all of it.
because-
So it'll come out of the 240,
So the jail capital fund, that 550,000,
right?
that's in that fund. So it's basically the 541 and the 252
Okay, that would be,
Right.
PGS loan.
But you can minus that 100,000, because as she mentioned, it's already funded there, so we don't have to transfer any more money. It's just what we anticipate, there might be some loose invoices coming in that have to get paid to wrap up that project. It
So what
may
would
be
be the
less than
total?
that. So the total is gonna be, say, 441,000 and 252,000. 693,000
Okay, that can run.
estimated. So that's what you would use out of the, 2.6.
And then what's left is like the requested positions and what am I missing after that?
The other stuff that came down today,
The prosecutor,
right, so that you would be just using, you may have to obviously use your regular, fund balance in the general fund. We had $28,000 request for a law clerk to reinstate from the courts. Mosquito abatement is okay, they got their own funding, they got more than enough, and their fund balance is growing even with putting that software in the funding. The drain office, the $40,000 truck, which is worked in the equipment capital. The prosecutor's staffing, I estimated the total cost of $165,315. That would have to use fund balance. The dispatch request, could use his fund balance, but I've shown what's gonna happen to his fund balance moving forward, so as long as you got a plan. The GIS treasurer, that's going to decrease our general fund revenue, so that will affect the revenue. It's gonna increase our expenditures by 20,000. And then, that's how it's gonna hit the general fund, and then between his fund and the tax foreclosure fund, there'll be 8,000 expense that gets moved out. So you have to look at the GIS fund moving forward, as far as, you may have to, we did make a commitment when we created the GIS fund, the general fund commitment of 60,000. So you may have changed that as far as from this day forward, or whenever you make that change. The general fund now commits to 80,000 per year instead of 60,000.
So, Chairman, if you, without eliminating any of those, that list we just went through, do you have the total, by chance? By the way, out of the seven, was it 600,000? Well, somewhere in there was the, was the request for it by EDC. Right.
So that EDC appropriation request is in your first draft.
Okay, it's included.
Yes,
The extra 41.
on the transfer balance. I believe it is. Let me double check. It is, isn't it? Yeah.
So, okay, back to the original question, what would hit the 690 or whatever it was down there? 633, 345.
So what would it, the 633, 645 would be approximately 165, 315, the 28,000. The $20,000. And then if we don't appropriate anything to dispatch, if we make that change. Oh, 200 and something thousand,
200 plus.
yeah, approximately, that you're on site. Which I like to keep it around 500. Around 500,000.
Which in this case would be lower than 500,000.
It's like 700 something now.
It is, 633, 345.
So that 633, 645 is premised at 149, 141 pivots.
That's right.
So, but we do have to hit it. We gotta hit it with that, and then we gotta hit it with this. So you're right, we're gonna hit it 150, and then we'll hit 165, and then maybe 28.
That's gonna be below 5. And I think that, all those three, we just went through, pretty much covers it all, correct?
I believe so. I'm not gonna say for sure until I crunch the numbers.
So the pleasure of the board would be, is there anything you want to pair out of that, out of any of those three? Well, not the first one, that's the 149, that's the pretty balanced budget, but the rest of those, requests, or would you like to, you could do that. Another option would be, would you like a pro forma? You could create as if those were approved and bring it back to the next meeting, and then we can make changes.
That would be my,
That would be best.
Then you can see what
just
it
see it
does.
better and get a better understanding of it.
So you're talking making things solvent today, so she can move forward and then come back to us with the other figures on the other things. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
she would update what we just talked about today, but, yeah, make it solvent
Yeah.
or to approve, and then we'd see the impact on the financials, and then we could go back and then we could take, other than the 149, I suppose, you could pair off the capitals, you could pair off.
We would see the impact of all the requests, and then we could go from there, bring it back if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, included in that scenario, I'm also gonna have to include, on these special revenue funds that are budgeting in a deficit, we can't leave, obviously, you can't adopt the budget, so I may have to include those as well. So that's additional transfer for those funds too.
What do you think that was? Just guess.
Goodness gracious.
I forgot about that, that was.
Yeah,
before.
there's 2, 3, 50, 455, 50, 600, probably another 600,000.
Okay. We'll do that.
Oh, I guess I'm not hungry.
A little more detail on that, please.
Yeah.
But the one, that would take care of everything in the red today, right? Claire? Everything you got here in the red from the court, the victim services, everything you got marked off here in the red.
About 600,000. For 1 year. 25.
But you're looking at the 149,000 right now to get that.
Or, I mean, we can leave it that way, and I can put it on my assumptions. That we are gonna use 140 of fund balance.
Okay.
And then assuming that we approve this, this, and this, how much we're gonna use of the PGS fund balance, just put it all down on one sheet on these assumptions. Now that we know what the requests were for today, the reason for the requests are, you got a little bit more knowledge, and I think we all do, and the reasoning behind these departments are asking for this specific stuff. And then now put it down in a scenario based. And then at that point in time, but time is of the essence too. I mean, we would like to, at the next meeting, right? Before we leave that meeting, we want to know what your draft budget is. That's the budget, actually, your proposed budget, because that's what we're gonna advertise in the newspaper for a budget hearing. Now, when you have your budget hearing, you can change it again. But at least we gotta have a solid, put in the newspaper to say, this is the budget hearing on, our $70 million budget. And then, of course, the day of the hearing, we change everything that day as well. That's, when we leave the hearing, and then you go into your board meeting, when we leave that meeting, you're gonna allow us to push that button, we got a budget in play.
But Chairman, another question for Colette. Is it possible, there's a bit of time now, to get something in advance? An advance means the commissioners would just walk into it
Yeah, I think we should.
and do a preview.
Yeah. And then that way you can look at it, make sure, we didn't miss anything, Compare your notes with our notes. At that time, we'll have, some minutes, a little bit to the back up on what we heard today. and to make sure we're not missing any other requests that might come in.
Okay. And going forward then?
I'm good.
Going good?
And we won't give you all the, the pages and pages of the detail, we'll show you where we're at, and we just put it in a line, scenario 1, scenario 2, and putting up what each one includes. And then kind of go from there.
Have you considered in this budget anywhere that we have talked about, the chief coming?
No, that's, you want that, you want this cost work in as well,
I
that
think we
scenario.
should, just to give us a look at, we need to look at this too. That it's very important to the county going forward. We don't run
Yeah,
with
I
how we
believe that
ran
should,
it.
your finances are your number one, and, you really gotta have, when the finance department was created, and we lost that when I took, assumed the role that I took, and we lost that position, it was never reinstated.
Well, we need to get, also back to what the job descriptions are and do this and do that like it was supposed to be. And, get, that's my feeling. So I would like to see this do it, it's because of the board, just have that
It's like working
option.
with the HR director and get costs, at least, you're looking at probably do a restructure, but at least the cost of chief accountant, put it back in. Add to the list.
Thank you. Okay. Move on to number 9. Intergovernmental agreement between Indian Fields Township and the Tuscola County Treasurer.
So, just looking for permission to bring an additional $20,000 to the county.
Thank you.
If you agree, we'll collect Indian Fields Township's winter taxes. Unfortunately, we kind of had to push this in front of you. I don't have the signed agreement from Bill Campbell. He gave me his minutes that stated they approved it. I figured we need to get bills to print soon. So I figured we could approve it before they signed it, and then just have the approval for your signature on the document as well, if that's acceptable.
That's up to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Indian Fields Township and Tuscola County Treasurer for the collection of taxes for the 2024 winter tax season, which runs between December 1, 2024 and February 8, 2025, and all authorized signatures.
Support.
So moved by Commissioner Lee, supported by Commissioner Young, to move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Indian Fields Township and Tuscola County Treasurer for the collection of taxes for 2024 winter tax season, which runs between December 1st, 2024 and February 8th, 2025, and also authorized all necessary signatures. There's a motion. Any more discussion?
Can we amend that it's February 28th, 2025?
Oh.
The last date to collect is February 28th?
28?
Yeah,
No, good with that.
sorry.
I'll support.
It's already been moved and supported, that's why I read it.
No change.
No change.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Everybody supports it?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
In regards to that? So right now, we got $30,000 in the budget, is that gonna be all the same?
For what?
For the tax collection? Is that it, or is that something you took on? That would be equalization?
City of Carroll contract with equalization, is that me?
So
Indian
where
Fields
is-
is different.
Where does
I
that?
just put it in the tax admin fee, that we get saying that collection, there's not a specific line. item.
So it's not in the general fund?
I didn't budget for this, so my $20,000 request for GIS, I paid myself for my request, like,
So it is something I have to add to the revenue?
yes, I need to.
That's what I want to make
sure.
sure it knows.
I will give you the line, I don't know, let me double check that I did not count for it, because we did it this last year.
Okay.
I wanna make sure I didn't put it in there, I don't think I did, because it was an unknown, and we told Indian Fields, it was a year-to-year thing. It wasn't that.
Thank you.
Y'all good there over there, Kletsky?
Okay, so, one question said 20,000, I want to make sure I count that.
Okay. Move on to number 10. The Veripro administration rate addendum, January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. This is Shelley Lutz, HR Director.
Good morning, this one should be easy. This is just our renewal for the Veripro contract for our Cobra and our FSA accounts. The rates have not gone up, they're holding the same rates. So I'm just requesting approval, and this is the FSA that we talk about. Of course, the county this year, I would like to also have them follow the IRS guidelines, which would be a $3,300 annual contribution by the employee for that. But really, all I'm asking for at this moment is approval of the contract to be signed and renewed.
Move to approve the Veripro rate addendum disclosure of commissions and fees for Tuscola County for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, and authorize all necessary signatures.
So moved by Commissioner Barlow, moved by Commissioner Young, to move to approve the rate addendum, the closure of the commissions and fees with Tuscola County for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, and authorize all signatures necessary. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
This is approved. Senior Citizens Home Delivery Meal Village, Plan Zach Minister.
As I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that the wording on the ballot language and when we're gonna be collecting that money. Because like me, I was assuming we're gonna budget it this year, but I did verify this with the equalization director. That, yeah, the funds won't be in until 26. So I just kind of wanted to make sure we touch base on that so you're aware of it.
Move on to number 12, the Foster Swift County Smith discussion. Did everybody get a chance to read what I sent them on this?
I did.
Yeah, I thought I was under the assumption the county didn't have a whole lot to do with it, according to that, you do.
Well, what this is basically is they made the law, whatever, okay? But now, the Michigan Commission or whatever was changing the rules a little bit because they didn't like the way townships were reacting to it. So Foster Swift is basically representing the townships and the counties or whatever to say, no, you can't do this. We still have our zoning rights. So basically, they're suing the Michigan Public Service Commission for the townships. And Santa County is getting on board with this. They feel it's a duty, be a county entity that they believe that townships should be, rights should not be taken away. And they kind of told us that if we didn't get on board. In fact, I got an email from Santa County last night that says, I thought I would share with you my conversation I had with the board chair today regarding entering into this agreement and safeguarding the county as well. I told him I do feel confident entering into this agreement in the sense that it hasn't technically a class action lawsuit, but an appeal of the rules put in place by MPSC. The cost should not exceed what is explained initially. However, I expressed a desire to have it noted that if it gets to a point where the county has paid $10,000, that this would be brought before the board for review of our status continuing in the appeal. I just felt that we have gone through MRPC and spent so much in that litigation. I feel it is important to show our residents we will not frivolously throw money at this if we do not continue to see it being beneficial. Also check the agreement from Foster Swift, and we can opt out of this at any time without any penalty or notice. And that's the email I got this morning, so that's what they're doing. So I sent it to you all to see what your feelings are on it. And they told Santa County at that time, with many people, they had 33 entities that were already signed on. That was a week ago or so, with Bartle. And at that point, they said they figured each county's cost would be between $5,000 and $10,000. Of course, the more entities they got, the less would be the cost.
Commissioners, I think the interesting part about this, at the highest level, is Foster Swift has a significant number of townships that are joining, because they don't take on issues that's significant. It is a prestigious law firm, Michael Premier, and the other attorney represents Laura Judovich. That's one issue. That what caught my attention, what's this all about? And then, as I read the letter, and Commissioner and I talked, and I talked to the townships, the overstepping of authority, in other words, there were some things that the township could zone or prevent. It looks like there's some movement there's nothing that a township can do. The overarching part of this, I think we all should be concerned with the fact that the legislature, and I'll call it Denonite, passed this legislation which unserved township government, who up until that point had local control, depending upon the people, the votes, the boards, unserved it for reasons that we can all only imagine, but we really don't know what's coming. Furthermore, I think that end of November, when this is supposed to go into effect, I don't think the population in this state is keenly aware of the impact it's going to have on agriculture. And so, obviously, you can tell that I'm very concerned related to what I'm hearing, and we're not just reading the immediate release. That I think that it would be pleasure to the board. We should seriously consider joining the other townships to assure whatever is happening that it has gone beyond what the legislature has provided. And perhaps there's other issues there that we're not aware of, but I do remember they're going to file November 8th.
November 8th.
November
That's why I had stuck on today, so they wanted to, they're trying to get everybody to be on board, that's when they want to file on this.
I agree with Mr. Bardwell, because I think we need to get on board with this.
Oh, yeah, it says November 8th, just have to read it further. So, with that said, Chairman, I move to approve Tuscola County to engage Foster Smith and Collins and Smith PC to represent Tuscola County interest in the appeal of order issued by the Michigan Public Service Commission, the PSC, regarding Public Act 233 and 223, PA 233, with a capped hourly rate of $2.95 and authorize all signatures, necessary signatures.
Support.
The move by Commissioner Barlow, support by Commissioner Lewis, move to approve Tuscola County to engage Foster Swift, Collins, and Smith PC to represent Tuscola County's interest in the appeal of an order issued by the Michigan Public Service Commission, MPSC, regarding Public Act 233 of 2023. PA 233 was a capped hourly rate of $295 and authorized all necessary signatures. That is motion. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, most has been approved. So then can you instruct Mary Shelley to reach out to this firm and do it, please? Number 13, potential new accounts for clerk's live scan fees.
I can do this one, hopefully names on that, but, so the clerk has found another revenue source of some money, so we'll be adding this into the budget too. There's gonna be money that can stay in the general fund and money that's gotta get passed on to the state of Michigan. So we wanted to create, a new revenue line item to track this, as well as in our fiduciary custodial fund, create a account number so we can track and make sure the monies get turned over to the state of Michigan.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the establishment of the following new accounts for the clerk live scan fee general fund revenue account 101-000-628-215 live scan fee with a budget of $750, information account 701-000-228-162. Live scan fees, no budget is needed for this account.
Support.
The moved by Commissioner Lutz, supported by Commissioner Young, to move to approve the establishment of the following new accounts for the clerk's live scan fees. General fund revenue account 101-000-628-215, live scan fees with a budget of $750, and fiduciary account 701-000-228-162, live scan fees, no budget is needed for this account. There's a motion, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. That takes us through the new business this morning. We'll move into old business and the discussion regarding potential 2024-2026 audit firms. Claire, I'll turn this back over to you.
Yeah, so our audit agreement ended with our budget year 2023. So this year should have been the year around July or August. We should have been going out for bids or looking for auditors, making a decision, we're gonna have a change or not gonna have a change, or ask for extensions. I didn't find any evidence for that happen. And of course, with the other potential internal auditing things going on, I figured it was important to get something before the board and talk about it. I did reach out, I was in discussion, obviously, with the bridge, as well as, I had mentioned before, the Manor Costerson, I think is how you pronounce it, reached out. So we able to get potential costs or proposed costs from either one of those firms. Both of them gave me a 3-year, as far as going forward, so at least you're locked into a 3-year auditing engagement. I know there's some new reporting requirements coming up, some new standards, things that are gonna be in play that are gonna take a little bit extra time to budget, and we will kind of talk about that looking forward. So the cost obviously is going up to produce a county budget. Well, thanks to the state of Michigan and their ESP rules that they're putting on us that we have to do. But anyways, so the two of those are in front of you today for discussion, and if you choose to make a decision to move forward, so at least we'll have an auditor in play. This will be to do your annual budgets.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer, really. I mean, the Gabriel, you know, we're ready to move on. I think from this firm, the prices of fact coming higher than this company came in, and they'll also do our audit that we're looking to do here at the end of the year to.
This would be for the end of the year audit only. Yeah, for 3 years. That's what this is. Now, if, you know, I know this particular company was asking about the other audit that you put out, that I think Shelley was working on.
No, I'm talking about the special audit that we're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, this company was interested in that, but obviously if
This is not for that,
this is your big audit.
That's
This is your
okay.
annual
Right,
audits.
right.
Yeah.
For
You
3.
can't have the same firm do both. The special audit and your annual audit, it has to be different firms. They can't audit their audit.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
I'm talking about the auditor, we want to come in to look what's going on, why you, but it's gone. Can't they audit that and then continue to be our auditor?
No,
Do they have auditors? Yeah.
but they're going to be auditing our 24, if you choose them, they'd be auditing our 24.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all they're asking for at this point in time.
Okay.
They did inquire about the other one that was out there being advertised.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of questions.
Yes.
Okay. On the one from, what's the name again?
The bridge?
Or Coster in. We have a discount of $5,168. Why do we get it? It's on page 24 of my.
Yeah, okay, I see it on page 5 too. I don't know, I didn't go into great detail, I asked for some information, what did you say it's on page?
And the book is on page 24.
Okay. Yeah, it's shown here on page 5 as well.
But note on the bottom, moving down, in 2024, the total was 55,500, above is 64,900. I was wondering what the difference is.
That's the one, this one here, I think is, I see what you're saying. And up here is 64,900.
Right.
Did you read the scope? This isn't just for, that's for a 1-year audit versus, so if you want to just do a 1-year audit, it would be 64,900. If you wanted to enter into a multi-year audit, then the cost comes down. Because now they're gonna be in play for 3 years. Because I did ask them for both, because I didn't know the commissioners just wanna do a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract. And I'm talking to him, he did mention that, I can quote you a 3-year, cheaper than just do a 1-year.
Well, Clay, this motion today would just be for the 1 year,
No, I would like it to be for
3 years.
3 years.
3 years, because it is cost savings.
Yeah, that's right.
And normally that's what we do,
Yeah.
when we enter the contract, it's normally for a 3-year.
That's what I was gonna say, it's a savings.
With the pleasure of the board. I move to approve the 3-year Tuscarora County audit engagement with Mayor Castarian with the following associated costs: audit year 24 at 55,500, audit year 25 at 58,700, and audit year 2026 at 62,100. Also, all necessary signatures are authorized.
Support.
For now.
Those in favor, you get
55,500 for 24. For 25, it's 58,700. And for 26, 62,100.
was supported.
Yeah.
It was moved by Commissioner Barwell, supported by Commissioner, moved to approve the 3-year Tuscola County audit engagement with Manor Castarian with the following associated costs: audit year 2024 at 55,500, audit year 2025, 58,700, and audit year 2026 at 62,100. Also, all necessary signatures are authorized. Any more discussion with that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is passed.
I did budget for it in audit, so it doesn't change your bottom line.
Oh, okay.
Budget figures, it's already been, I knew we had to have one, so that was budgeted.
Other than this is necessary, I just got one thing I need to add here. A while back, Mr. Miller came in, to approve the furniture purchase over the new building. We gave direction to Neil to, take it out of the PGS fund, but he didn't take it out of that fund and that would like to correct that transaction, but she needs a motion to have her, move it from where it was taken, put it back into the PGS fund, if somebody would read this motion for them, so you can make that correction.
Where was it taken from?
He didn't take it from anywhere, he just had it
Well, nothing
for the
really.
project.
Oh,
Yeah, nothing really happened, it's just the expense got applied to the project itself. There was no money transferred, there was no, so it would have fell short if we didn't do something.
okay.
I move to that the approval of $142,482.80 for the furniture Advantage Business System LLC in motion 2024-M-186 be approved under the provisions of the Government Services Fund balance in the general fund. Funds to be transferred from the general fund 101 into the capital improvement fund 483, expense line items 483-901-975-004, People's building furniture to be established, all budget amendments and transfer to be authorized.
Support.
The move by Commissioner Lewis, supported by Commissioner Young, to move the approval of $142,482.80 for furniture from Advanced Business Systems LLC in motion 2024-M-196 be approved under the provision of government services fund balance in the general fund. Funds will be transferred from the general fund 101 into the capital improvement fund 483-901-975-004. PSP bill furniture to establish all budget amounts transferred and authorized as a motion. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's been approved.
I have one more comment.
Ooh, we did. Okay, 3 minutes late on that one.
You want to hear this?
Okay.
Kurt Fetting got back to me, and there's 7,263,782 registered voters in Michigan. I asked her that question, she didn't know. She did her homework.
Well, why would I want to hear that?
Because she knew the evidence, right? I mean,
Oh.
I wanted to share it with you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, for that.
Mr. Chairman, I got one thing I'd like to bring to board.
Yeah.
On our last Monday on our MAC judicial board, they said there's gonna be about 9 to 13 days of probably the, I wanna say cold, but it's what it is. And the, septic tank law, they said it's not going away, but it's not gonna be a part of that.
Good.
Push through.
Good.
So I bring it to board. It's not going away, but it's not bringing it up.
Not going away, but if we could change his house.
Yes,
then it will go away.
best thing that could happen.
Okay, extended public comment. Anybody want to address the board? Anybody besides Ian? Anyone like to address the board, extended public comment? Anyone out there still, how many people we still got hanging in? 18 still out there? Public comment for anything that's here today or anything that's on just the board on, time to do that is now. Let the record show that public comment was offered. Extended public comment, and we had no participants. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make that motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Newton, supported by the rest of the board to adjourn the full board meeting. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Thank you.